If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 21, Conqueror's Haki. After Ryujiro passed the assessment, Hiruzen put a lot of effort into promoting him. There was no shortage of publicity about Ryujiro, especially regarding his connection to the third Hokage. Now, the villagers were all well aware about that. Once again, Konoha had produced a ninja whose swordsmanship rivaled even Konoha's White Fang. 5 months had passed, and the Ninja Academy was once again on holiday. Outside the village of Konoha, in an open field, a figure dashed like lightning, leaving trails of fire and lightning in its wake. The aura emanating from Ryujiro was immense, almost suffocating. It wasn't the presence of a ninja that one felt in his presence, but that of a tailed beast. The chakra swirling around him was like a raging tide, ready to engulf anything in its path when unleashed. Ryujiro is truly a genius. In just 5 months, he managed to open the 4th gate of the 8 inner gates. Guy, while teaching Ryujiro the 8 inner gates, was increasingly amazed. If it weren't for Ryujiro's mastery of swordsmanship reaching an otherworldly level, Guy would have suggested he focus solely on taijutsu. The 8 inner gates themselves released the body's limitations on chakra, allowing for an explosive surge of excess chakra that could increase one's strength several times over. Is opening the 4th gate already my limit? Ryujiro furrowed his brow, feeling somewhat dissatisfied. Even with just the 4th gate, his body felt waves of stinging pain. Opening the 5th gate forcibly would likely result in uncontrollable chakra backlash. The power of the gate of pain when activated will increase several times. Ryujiro's deep eyes suddenly sharpened. Zing! Accompanied by the unsheathing of his sword, dazzling blade lights suddenly flashed. A terrifying aura erupted, and sudden winds overturned everything around in an instant. Boom! A pitch-black slash, spanning over 20 meters, explosively surged forward like a roaring dragon, its might truly astonishing. The ground trembled incessantly, and rubble turned to powder beneath the slash. When the dust settled as the slash disappeared, a crack, spanning hundreds of meters due to the slash, appeared before Might Guy's eyes. Rumble! The earth shook, and due to the force of the slash, another crack, jagged and sprawling, suddenly spread from the other end, extending towards Ryujiro's feet. The power of the slash has approximately doubled. This outcome was within Ryujiro's expectations. At this moment, Guy, with widened eyes, looked on in shock, staring at the deep crater before him. Even an S-level ninjutsu might not be as powerful as that slash, and in Guy's eyes, the slash was instantaneous. Even Guy didn't see clearly what just happened right now, he only heard the sharp sound of swords. He just heard a deafening sound, and then saw the abyss crack in front of him. Ahem, cough, cough, it seems I have nothing to teach you except the 8 gates. Guy looked at Ryujiro with a bitter look on his face. If Ryujiro hadn't been attracted to 8 gates, would he still have chosen him? Guy-sensei, as a ninja, I still need your guidance. You don't have to say such things. Ryujiro said modestly. Ah! Due to his mature and humble personality, even Guy was attracted by Ryujiro's unique temperament. After Ryujiro left, Guy came there with a few people. Kurane, Asuma, and Kakashi all looked at the scene in front of them with shocked expressions in their eyes. Is this the effect of Ryujiro's swordsmanship? During the last assessment, Ryujiro concealed his true strength. Is this his true power? Even Sakumo-san's swordsmanship wouldn't be able to produce a slash like Ryujiro's. This level of power has already surpassed us. Indeed. The 4 fell into silence. They didn't know what else to say besides shock and horror. Such a young boy at the level of a cage, was unheard of in the history of the ninja world. They were grateful that such a monster was born in Konoha. If born in an enemy nation, undoubtedly, it would have added a formidable enemy to Konoha. Kakashi, looking at the slash stretching 100 meters before them, fell into deep silence. In 5 months, Ryujiro's template progress had slowed compared to before. It seemed that fighting with Mihawk was no longer significantly enhancing his swordsmanship. Character template, Dracula Mihawk. Character unlock progress, 76%. In 5 months, it had only increased by less than 3%. He needed to find a way to enhance his strength as soon as possible. His current strength was not enough for him to be content and feel safe. Only with great strength could one find peace of mind. As Ryujiro walked down the street, he suddenly stopped, looking at the young boy whose aura was now filled with coldness, different from before. Ryujiro sighed silently in his heart. Sasuke, if you have any thoughts of challenging me, it's best to dismiss them early. We are now in different dimensions. Sasuke's face twisted with ferocity as he looked at Ryujiro. I'm different from before. I have improved. Ryujiro looked into Sasuke's eyes, his expression changing slightly, but soon he calmed down. His Sharingan has been awakened. But it's still not enough. A terrifying aura suddenly erupted from Ryujiro's body, sweeping towards Sasuke. Sasuke's Sharingan returned to its normal black color instantly, staring at Ryujiro in shock, his legs unable to support him as he fell to the ground. As Ryujiro passed by Sasuke, his cold voice reached Sasuke's ears. Compared to Taki, you're not even a genius. I advise you to give up on revenge as soon as possible. When you meet Taki, you won't even have the power to escape. Sasuke's face froze for a moment, then twisted suddenly, his fists weakly pounding the ground as he let out a hoarse roar. Under Ryujiro's provocation, the seeds of hatred in Sasuke's heart began to grow madly. Hearing Sasuke's hoarse roar from behind, Ryujiro's lips curled into a faint smile. With his observation Haki, Ryujiro could feel the skyrocketing hatred emanating from Sasuke. He knew doing this would increase Sasuke hatred towards Taki, but he didn't care. Even if Taki saw this scene, he wouldn't say anything. On the contrary, he might thank Ryujiro in his heart for nurturing the seed of hatred in Sasuke's heart. Conqueror's Haki. It's so useful in these situations, especially against fodders. The aura that erupted from Ryujiro earlier was precisely Conqueror's Haki. And this Conqueror's Haki wasn't awakened due to Mihawk's Template, it was Ryujiro's own Conqueror's Haki. Chapter 22, Baptism of Blood. 5 months had passed, and Ryujiro had become a frequent visitor to the Hyuga house. Hayashi already regarded Ryujiro as his son-in-law. A son-in-law whose strength rivaled that of the cage, what more could Hayashi desire? The members of the Hyuga clan were also full of awe for Ryujiro. Niji looked unwillingly at Ryujiro and Hinata. Was this the fate of the branch family? His fate was to never resist the separation of the branch family. There was a hint of despair in Niji's heart. While accompanying Hinata in training, Ryujiro noticed Niji's gaze. Looking at Niji's desolate eyes, Ryujiro couldn't help but wonder what he was thinking. Ryujiro. Brother Niji. Hinata also noticed that Niji's mood seemed off, and his lonely demeanor looked somewhat pitiful. Continue training according to my method, Hinata. I'll go find your father. Ryujiro responded. At this time, Hayashi had just finished the main family meeting. Several elders greeted Ryujiro politely when they saw him. Ryujiro. Ryujiro responded lightly. Hayashi wasn't too surprised to see Ryujiro. He instructed the servants to bring 2 more cups of tea. Ryujiro is here. Take a seat. Ryujiro naturally sat down, looking at Hayashi without saying a word. Hayashi seemed to guess that Ryujiro had something to discuss, so he said, if you have anything to do, just tell me. Hayashi-sama, are you really not going to let Niji know the truth? Hayashi's body trembled, staring at Ryujiro with widened eyes. How do you know about this? Ryujiro didn't give a direct answer. Did Hayashi expect him to reveal every detail of the history of this world and everything that happened to each one of them? Give me a break. Hayashi sighed. I am most aware of Niji's hatred for the main family. But only by preserving that hatred in Niji's heart can we use his talent to grow rapidly. I'm not telling him because the time is not right yet. Hatred, hey? Niji wasn't Sasuke. His inner hatred wasn't enough. When a more dazzling genius appeared by Hinata's side, the brilliance of a genius would also dim. You're wrong. That hatred precisely limits Niji's potential. Hisashi-sama died to protect you. He didn't want Niji to hold on to hatred against the main family, but to strive to protect the members of the main family. Ryujiro said lightly. Geniuses are often burdened with too much baggage, which limits their potential. Hayashi's heart trembled. It seemed he had been wrong all along. He forgot Hisashi's words. Please tell Niji that I didn't die to protect the main family, but to protect my brother and the village. Hisashi's words seemed to echo in his ears at this moment. Hayashi looked at Ryujiro with a complex expression. I really can't understand you more, as the time passes. Hayashi-sama, just know that I have no ill intentions toward the Hyuga clan. After all, this is also Hinata's home. Ryujiro smiled, finished his tea, and then left. A few days later, Hayashi finally handed the scroll left by Hisashi to Niji. From that day on, Niji gradually let go of his hatred for the main family and became more respectful towards Hinata and Ryujiro. And his hatred shifted to the Kumigakure village. At the border of the Land of Fire, Guy and Ryujiro were scouting the area for other ninja. The news of the destruction of the Uchiha clan had spread throughout the ninja world, causing other countries' ninja to stir, wanting to take advantage of Konoha's weakness. Sensei, I can search this area alone. You go to the other side. Guy understood Ryujiro's strength and had no objections. After instructing him, he went to search another area. After Guy left, Ryujiro's gentle gaze became sharp. His observation Haki had already locked onto the ninja hiding in the shadows. Although Ryujiro's strength was formidable now, his hands had never been stained with blood. This time, Ryujiro came out of the village to give himself a baptism of blood. The Iwagakure ninja hiding in the shadows saw Ryujiro, a mere genin, wandering on the border and immediately showed a cruel smile. Has Konoha reached the point where they have no one else to send? To send a brat like this to the border? Don't waste time. Kill this brat quickly. Just as the Iwagakure ninja were about to attack Ryujiro, the young ninja they had been watching suddenly disappeared. First one. Swish. A dazzling flash of the blade shot out from its sheath, and the Iwagakure ninja's widened eyes revealed fear. Looking at Ryujiro's indifferent face, he realized that Ryujiro was not an ordinary genin, but a monster. In the blink of an eye, the flash of the blade had declared the fate of the Iwagakure ninja. A large amount of blood gushed out like a fountain, and the severed head rolled to the ground, leaving behind a trail of blood. The grass instantly turned bright red. Ryujiro's brow, only slightly furrowed, feeling a little discomfort. But there was no feeling of nausea at all. The remaining two Iwagakure ninja were filled with fear and immediately felt the threat of death. You damn brat! Earth release, earth flow spears! The ground beneath Ryujiro's feet suddenly trembled, and sharp rocks emerged from the ground in an instant. However, these tricks had no effect on Ryujiro. Where's that brat? Damn it! He's just a genin. What happened just now? That boy is not simple. Let's retreat for now. At this moment, a cold voice came from behind the two Iwagakure ninja. Wanna run? It's too late. Both of you will stay here. With a swift movement, two slashes cut through the bodies of the two Iwagakure ninja without any extra motion. Sizzle. Blood gushed out from their bodies, and they were split in half by Ryujiro's blade. In this area alone, besides these few ninja hiding, there were at least dozens of others with a presence not inferior to these two Iwagakure ninja. A cold figure shuttled through the border, accompanied by the flicker of blades, leaving behind one incomplete corpse after another. Apart from the sound of wind, there was no sound at the silent border, except for the invisible addition of corpses one after another. Guy also caught a few Tsunagakure ninja on the other side, but when he came to Ryujiro's side, he was stunned. What happened here? Chapter 23, Can I be with you? Bodies cut in half lay strewn on the ground, dark red color painting the earth in a crimson hue. These wounds were fatal cuts. He already knew who did this. Guy's expression darkened gradually, not because he was displeased with Ryujiro's actions, but because on the border of the Land of Fire, there were so many shinobi from other village Iwagakure, Kumigakure. What did they want gathering at the borders of Konoha? The situation here was beyond his authority as a jonin, he had to report this to the third Hokage. However, how could Ryujiro endure the bloody scent in the air? He endured it because he had been in battles before, the number of corpses here was nothing compared to what he had seen. But Ryujiro, such a young boy who had never been to war. How could he withstand something he had never encountered before, the world of ninja and blood? Ah! A wail of agony echoed not far from Guy. Guy's expression shifted slightly, immediately rushing towards the source of the cry. He saw Ryujiro, but he was also struck by what he witnessed. Ryujiro was covered in blood, his clothes now stained with blood, and the tiny droplets of blood still dripped incessantly from the tip of his sword. What shocked Guy the most was that Ryujiro, as he looked at the corpses before him, showed no change in his eyes, as if he had become numb. In Ryujiro's eyes, Guy couldn't see any emotion, only indifference. Guy-sensei, you're here. A faint smile appeared on Ryujiro's face. But this smile made Guy feel somewhat uneasy. Ryujiro, are you okay? Guy was not worried about Ryujiro's physical injuries but his mental state. After all of this was the first time for Ryujiro, could his mind handle the amount of blood on his hands? Because on the battlefield, there were many who collapsed mentally, especially someone like Ryujiro, a child. Guy-sensei, don't worry about me. I'm fine. I'm more clear-headed right now. In fact, I haven't felt this great since a long time. Ryujiro sheathed his sword, turning to look at Guy with a faint gaze. Before, perhaps he had been somewhat unaccustomed, but now Ryujiro was also numb to all these killings. With the number of shinobi dying at his hands, regardless of whether they were Iwagakure or Kumigakure shinobi, they were sliced apart by Ryujiro like cutting through a watermelon. These shinobi had no chance to resist before dying at Ryujiro's hands. I'm fine. Guy murmured softly as he looked at Ryujiro. What a terrifying mental resilience. Were geniuses like Ryujiro stronger not only in terms of mental strength but also in adapting to their environment than ordinary people? As expected of you, it might not be easy to handle the situation here. Let's return and report the mission first. You should clean up as soon as possible. After returning to the village, Guy submitted the mission and then returned to the Hokage's office. When Ryujiro arrived at the Hyuga house, almost everyone was taken aback. Hinata rushed out anxiously, not caring much, and threw herself onto Ryujiro, who was covered in bloodstains. Ryujiro-kun, what happened exactly? Are you hurt? Why is there so much blood on you? As Hinata spoke, tears welled up in her eyes, as she carefully inspected every inch of Ryujiro's body. I'm fine. This blood is from the enemy. I need to clean up. Hinata, wait for me to finish cleaning up before you check again. The sticky blood made Ryujiro feel uncomfortable. Even though Hinata listened to Ryujiro's words, she still wasn't particularly reassured because the bloodstains on Ryujiro hadn't dried yet, and some had stained her as well. With her head bowed, she said softly, Ryujiro-kun, can I be with you? After saying this, tears instantly welled up in Hinata's eyes. Anyway, Ryujiro was a young man full of vitality. Hinata had already said it herself, could he refuse? However, during the process, Ryujiro didn't do anything. After all, Hinata was still young, and Ryujiro himself felt a sense of guilt. Now, Hinata's heart was already on Ryujiro, even if they waited a few more years, it wouldn't matter. However, in front of Ryujiro, Hinata seemed quite petite, as the Ryujiro was already very tall. Dash. Character Template, Dracula Mihawk. Character Unlock Progress, 78%. Killing them has boosted my progress quite a bit. After Ryujiro killed a shinobi, his progress would increase a bit, which was somewhat similar to gaining experience points in an online game. It seemed like he would have to do more missions with Guy-sensei in the future for his progress to grow quickly. When his Mihawk template reached 100%, it might unlock the second character template. During the next period of time, most of Ryujiro's time was spent training with Hinata in the village. And Naruto also seemed to be diligently training to improve his strength. In the Hyuga dojo, there were many wooden stakes placed, which were used for the Hyuga clan's gentle fist training. Since Ryujiro came to the Hyuga clan, this dojo had always been used by Ryujiro and Hinata alone. Of course, no one dared to vie for it. After all, this was under the order of the clan head, no one could disturb Hinata and Ryujiro in the dojo. 8 trigrams air palm. The shockwave produced by the air palm easily shattered the wooden stakes, and while accompanying Hinata's training, Ryujiro was also improving his observation haki. He allowed Hinata to attack him at any time. And now even if it was the Hyuga clan's 64 palms, Ryujiro could easily dodge it. Reaching the pinnacle of observation haki allowed one to see the future. He wondered if he could reach such a level himself. Just Hinata alone was no longer enough to make Ryujiro feel pressured. Hinata, stop for a moment. Hearing Ryujiro's words, Hinata stopped and looked at Ryujiro in confusion. Ryujiro pushed open the dojo's door and instructed the servant at the door, go call Niji. Yes, Ryujiro-sama. After a while, Niji arrived at the dojo. Seeing Ryujiro and Hinata, he respectfully greeted them, Hinata-sama and Ryujiro. Ryujiro smiled at Niji in front of him. Niji, from today onwards, you will train with us. Niji widened his eyes in surprise, showing a grateful expression. Ryujiro, this won't do any good. I am just a branch family member, and besides, the clan head has ordered that no one can disturb you and Hinata-sama. It's okay. I will speak to Hinata's father about it. From today onwards, accompany me and Hinata in training. I don't like repeating myself. I hope you understand. After hesitating for a moment, Niji looked at Ryujiro with gratitude in his eyes. I understand, Ryujiro. Chapter 24, Meeting Orochimaru again. 2 years had passed, and Ryujiro could now open up to the 6th gate. During these 2 years, Ryujiro had not slackened in the slightest. Following the original timeline of the Naruto world, the plot leading to 4th Great Ninja War had already begun. Currently, both Hinata and Niji had graduated early from the Ninja Academy, and their strength now rivaled that of Chunin. This was why Hayashi had agreed to Hinata's early graduation. Gentle fist style. 8 trigrams, 64 palms. 2 palms, 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms. 64 palms. Hinata and Niji teamed up against Ryujiro, but with the help of his observation Haki. Both of their attack patterns were deciphered by Ryujiro. Even if there were deviations or changes in position, with the assistance of observation Haki, he could easily evade their attacks. Even when facing the 64 palms head-on, Ryujiro remained unscathed. His armament Haki acted like an invisible armor protecting him. All of Hinata and Niji's gentle fist were dodged by Ryujiro. Impressive, Ryujiro. The gap between us is still immense. Hinata and Niji were sweating profusely. Ryujiro looked at them and smiled faintly. Both of your strengths are already impressive. No. Compared to you we're still weak, we will need to train harder. A hint of helplessness appeared on Ryujiro's face. Niji always seemed dissatisfied with his own strength, but now, compared to the original, he was much stronger. Having changed the plot, both Hinata and Niji had graduated early from the Ninja Academy, and it was unknown whether the Chunin exams would begin early. Konoha Crush Plan. By now, the 4th Kazekage was probably dead at Orochimaru's hands. The Konoha Crush Plan was one of the key plot points in changing Konoha's fate. Ryujiro felt that Konoha should make some changes. Hiruzen was already old, and even if he sat in the Hokage's position, he was somewhat ineffective. Furthermore, Hiruzen's constant compromise with the Konoha Council, and his lack of assertiveness towards Danzo, had led to the decay of Konoha's roots. It was time for the wheels of Konoha to turn once again. At night, Ryujiro's figure disappeared into the darkness and arrived at an open field. At this moment, a cold voice sounded strangely sinister under the moonlight. Ryujiro, it's been a while. You are even more intriguing now. Orochimaru's eyes revealed a hint of fanaticism. Disgusting, Orochimaru. A trace of disgust flashed in Ryujiro's eyes. Hehe, Ryujiro, you're different from those people. You are a commoner, yet you've reached heights that commoners can't achieve. What secrets does your body hide? It's really intriguing. I want to cut it open. Orochimaru spat out his snake tongue, his gaze on Ryujiro as if he wanted to devour him alive. Keep your dirty thoughts to yourself. You just want to use me as an experimental subject, or use my body for your next reincarnation. Am I right? Snake. Orochimaru's gaze changed, and a sharp murderous intent emanated from him. Ryujiro, it seems you know quite a bit. But the immortality jutsu is a forbidden jutsu I developed. Apart from me and one other person, no one else knows about it. How did you find out? Ryujiro looked at him indifferently. I know everything about you. Hat. Orochimaru's expression finally became serious. This brat was indeed different. He was even more unfathomable than a few years ago. As a snake by instinct, he should have been a predator. But when he carefully observed Ryujiro, Orochimaru felt that Ryujiro was his natural enemy. However, Orochimaru was not afraid. Instead, he was even more excited, and the madness on his face became even more intense. Ryujiro. You're amazing. I can't wait to uncover the secrets within you. Hidden Shadow Snake Hands. Many poisonous snakes flew out from Orochimaru's sleeves, their sharp fangs open wide, flying towards Ryujiro. Ryujiro's gaze suddenly turned cold. I really hate snakes, Orochimaru. With a swing of his sword, snake heads rolled on the ground, and at the same time, a terrifying aura erupted from Ryujiro's body. Conqueror's Haki swept over the surroundings, creating an invisible storm. Orochimaru's eyes couldn't help but contract, and his whole body trembled for a moment. This aura! Cold sweat broke out on Orochimaru's forehead as he looked at Ryujiro in fear, his eyes filled with dread as he gazed into Ryujiro's hawk-like eyes. The natural enemy of snakes is hawks. Looking at those sharp eyes, Orochimaru felt like he was facing a fierce hawk. For a moment, even Orochimaru was briefly distracted by the Conqueror's Haki. Ryujiro's patience was limited, but dealing with Orochimaru, a troublesome opponent, wasn't as simple as making him pay a price easily. Orochimaru also realized that his previous plans were no longer feasible, because the current Ryujiro had grown to be a ninja who was not inferior to himself. Hehe, I see now. It seems I was too arrogant, but Ryujiro, I know now which category you belong to. You won't be easily bound by Konoha. Someone like you belongs to the shinobi world. I look forward to our next meeting. In the darkness, Orochimaru's figure gradually disappeared. An annoying snake. Ryujiro sheathed his sword. Although Orochimaru was detestable, Ryujiro had to admit that he was an outstanding scientist. In order to achieve immortality, he developed forbidden jutsus like the immortality jutsu. In a certain sense, this was also a form of immortality. However, this kind of immortality required changing bodies every few years, which was the price of immortality. In fact, Ryujiro had thought that if the bloodlines of the Uchiha and Otsutsuki clans could be transplanted, perhaps only Orochimaru could do it. Apart from his own strength, Ryujiro also considered that if Hinata's Byakugan could undergo a change, perhaps he wouldn't have to worry too much about her safety. The Sharingan's ultimate form was the Rinnegan, while the Hyuga clan's Byakugan was the Tenseigan. But for the Byakugan to evolve into the Tenseigan, it required the chakra of the Otsutsuki clan. Although the Hyuga clan had the bloodline of the Otsutsuki clan, it was still too thin to meet the conditions for evolving into the Tenseigan. The Tenseigan was no less powerful than the Rinnegan. It possessed the power of creation and destruction. That was the power of the six paths. Orochimaru. The next time he saw him, he should remind this mischievous snake to be more mindful. Chapter 25, Chunin exams comes early. A year later, as the number of missions Ryujiro undertook with Guy increased, the amount of blood on his hands became countless. He himself didn't even know how many enemy ninjas he had killed in this past year, and Ryujiro's name as a genin had spread to the ears of several major villages. However, many unexpected events occurred during this year for Ryujiro, one of which was that Naruto and the others had graduated half a year ago. And this week, ninjas from several other major villages also arrived in Konoha to participate in the Chunin exams. The Chunin exams were earlier than expected, the timeline was completely shifted forward, which caught Ryujiro off guard. At this moment, Konoha was much livelier than usual, looking at the ninjas from other countries in Konoha. Ryujiro couldn't help but frown. Is it because of my influence that the Chunin exam is happening early? As the teams sent by various villages arrived one after another, Konoha became lively. Especially when the fourth Kazekage arrived, it caused a lot of discussion among the people of Konoha. The fourth Kazekage. Ryujiro's eyes narrowed involuntarily. The fourth Kazekage, Raza, had long been dead at the hands of Orochimaru. The current fourth Kazekage was either Orochimaru in disguise or someone impersonating him. That guy Orochimaru seemed to be ready to cause trouble in Konoha. The Chunin exams were just a small episode for Ryujiro. With only a week left until the exams, the other genin were all preparing for it. And at this moment, Gaara and his group had already arrived in Konoha. Konoha is still interesting. I've already grown tired of our village. Ryujiro's gaze was involuntarily drawn to them. It was the three of them. The future fifth Kazekage, Gaara, Temari, and Conqueror. The strength of these three was not less than of Chunin at all. At this time, it seemed that most of the genin advancing from the Chunin exams were talented ninjas like Gaara. Whether it was due to the attraction of strong individuals, Gaara's attention was also focused on Ryujiro. That guy was a strong one. Temari and Conqueror also noticed the fervor in Gaara's eyes. That boy had caught Gaara's attention. It's really pathetic. Konoha's genin. Temari and Conqueror knew very well what kind of monster Gaara was. Even the thought of him still made them feel afraid. Hat. Ryujiro smiled faintly. He turned and left the bustling street. For Gaara, One-Tail's Jinchuriki, this exam was really something to look forward to. A week passed, and Ryujiro arrived at the venue of the Chunin exams. At this time, there were also a few more people in Might Guy's team. Tenten, Niji, Rock Lee, and Hinata. Originally, Hinata's supervising jonin should have been Kurane, but perhaps because of Ryujiro's influence, Hinata still chose Might Guy. Ryujiro, Hinata-sama. At this point, Niji was full of respect for both Ryujiro and Hinata, and he vowed to live to protect Hinata and Ryujiro. Is this Ryujiro? Tenten and Lee couldn't help but focus their gaze on Ryujiro. Although they were both students of Gai-sensei, they had never seen Ryujiro in all the time they had been with Gai-sensei. However, not seeing doesn't mean not hearing about Ryujiro's name. It's impossible for them not to know how famous he is. Graduating as the top student from the Ninja Academy and winning against a Jonin in the graduation exam, such brilliant achievements were hard to imagine. The exam is about to start, let's go in quickly. At this moment, Tenten hurriedly said. The first exam was quite simple. At this moment, the exam hall for the Chunin exams was already filled with people, and what surprised Ryujiro was that Temari was also in this exam hall. This Chunin exams was divided into 2 exam halls, and the main examiner on Ryujiro's side was not Marino Ibiki. This guy was also in this exam hall. Temari glanced at Ryujiro without paying much attention to him. In her eyes, Ryujiro was already a dead man, and the fate of anyone targeted by Gaara was extremely tragic. Temari didn't think a Konoha ninja could stand up to Gaara. As usual, the first exam was a written test. The main examiner casually explained the rules of the exam hall, and then the test papers were distributed to all the examinees. For Ryujiro, these test papers were like elementary school papers, with no difficulty at all. But many examinees showed a dumbfounded expression. The exam questions might be simple for Ryujiro, but not for others. Some examinees had already started to panic and pull their hair out. As for Temari, when she saw the test paper, she also showed a hint of difficulty on her face. Many examinees, unable to solve the problems, began to consider cheating, but they were caught by the examiner and directly disqualified from the Chunin exams. Don't even think about cheating. If I catch any of you little brats, you won't even think about becoming Chunin in this lifetime. The voice of the main examiner warned coldly. For most examinees, this was undoubtedly torture. They racked their brains to write as many answers as possible. Some who couldn't solve the problem simply gave up and left the exam hall. However, unlike most people, one of the examinees kept writing on the test paper. The sound of his pen scratching on the paper attracted everyone's attention, and they all looked at Ryujiro writing non-stop on the test paper. Even Temari felt a bit surprised. Was this guy just randomly scribbling, or were these questions really not difficult for him? And the main examiner glanced at Ryujiro and then withdrew his gaze. This group of kids must be dumbfounded. This is our Konoha genius, Ryujiro, whose swordsmanship is even more terrifying than that of the White Fang of Konoha. Since Ryujiro and Might Guy returned from that border mission, Ryujiro's achievements had been announced by the high-level officials of Konoha and posted prominently to inform everyone in the village. It's hard to imagine that all the incomplete bodies outside the borders of the Konoha were done by Ryujiro. It is said that on that day, the ninja who went to clean up the border couldn't bear it and vomited. Such a scene is truly unimaginable. A genius is indeed a genius. If he were like an ordinary person, would he still be a genius? Ryujiro spent less than half of the exam's allotted time. After finishing the last question, he handed in his paper without even checking it. Such behavior undoubtedly stabbed a knife into the hearts of the other examinees. Damn it! Is this guy serious? Only half the time has passed, and this boy really has the confidence to pass the exam? As time passed quickly, the exam time became shorter, and many impatient students had already stopped thinking too much because of the shortened time. They wrote down everything they could think of related to the questions on the test paper. Except for Temari, most people only turned in their papers at the last minute of the exam. And among them only Tenten and Rock Lee didn't have any confidence in passing this exam at all. But fortunately, when the results were announced, neither Tenten nor Rock Lee was eliminated. This made both of them breathe a sigh of relief. Chapter 26, Heaven Scroll. Why did you all come out early? Don't you think this exam was difficult? Tenten was curious about how Ryujiro, Hinata, and the others managed to tackle such difficult questions on the exam paper. She had to rack her brains just to barely pass this exam. Now, her spirits were dampened by the difficulty of the first exam, and as for the second exam, all the candidates were in for true hell. Ryujiro and the others shook their heads one after another. However, there was one person who came out of the exam hall that caught Ryujiro's interest. With white hair and a refined demeanor, wearing glasses, he looked like a scholar. Kabuto seemed to notice Ryujiro's gaze and gave a faint smile before turning to leave with the others. That was Ryujiro, whom Orochimaru mentioned. He's really unusual. They should be cautious of him in the next exam. Orochimaru's plans cannot afford any interference. Ryujiro. Naturally, Naruto also participated in this exam. It's Naruto. Yet, Ryujiro, the exam was really tough. Luckily, I managed to pass with some luck. Humph, Naruto, you clearly cheated. At this moment, Sakura, who was behind them, looked at Naruto disdainfully. Now, Team 7 was assembled, Sasuke, Sakura, and Naruto. Sasuke leaned against a tree, glancing at Ryujiro from afar. Sasuke still possessed Uchiha's pride. However, Sasuke couldn't feel that same pride in front of Ryujiro because the gap in strength between them was too vast. A year had passed, but Sasuke still had the Sharingan of Tsutomu. Unless something significant happened to him, the evolution of his Sharingan depended on his emotions. If Sasuke experienced something on the scale of massacre of Uchiha clans again, Ryujiro wondered if Sasuke would immediately unlock the Mangekyo Sharingan. But that's unlikely. This Chunin exam didn't have a so-called 10th question, so most people managed to pass the first exam. Now, there were many more genin candidates gathered on the field than Ryujiro knew from the original story. By this time, Kabuto had already mixed in with Naruto. After a while, the candidates on the open ground received summoning messages from their respective teachers. It was time to head to the second exam location. And what Ryujiro was looking forward to was this second exam, the Forest of Death. The Forest of Death, also known as the 44th Training Ground, was surrounded by over 44 locked entrances. Inside were rivers and forests, with a tall tower in the center, about 10 kilometers from the nearest entrance. The rules of the second exam were simple, just like in the original, each team would be given a scroll, either the Heaven Scroll or the Earth Scroll. Their task was to collect both scrolls and bring them to the central tower. This exam carried the risk of death, as ninja from various villages had signed death agreements. They all harbored ill intentions, wanting to eliminate fresh blood from enemy villages. The Earth Scroll was now in Ryujiro's hands, while only a few teams possessed the Heaven Scroll. These teams were like sheep among wolves, targets for other ninja teams. So, I announce. The second exam officially begins. Ibiki Marino announced solemnly. As soon as the exam began, many teams immediately set off to chase the team with the Heaven Scroll. This exam posed a threat to life, and teams with the Heaven Scroll knew that if they were caught, their lives would be in danger. Ryujiro's observation Haki had long locked onto the team with the Heaven Scroll. Currently, those people weren't far away and still within Ryujiro's perception range. Although observation Haki could sense the enemy's presence and predict their movements, it had its limitations. With Hinata and the others, Ryujiro quickly headed towards the team with the Heaven Scroll that he had locked onto. Apart from some insignificant teams, there was also a powerful ninja following the team with the Heaven Scroll, seeming to be from Konoha. But that guy? Yoroi, Kabuto, Masumi. Although they appeared to be genin on the surface, in reality, these guys were all spies Orochimaru had sent in Konoha to gather intelligence. Ryujiro, the team ahead is also from our Konoha. Shouldn't we team up with them? Tenten, who had been following behind, suggested. Ryujiro shook his head. There's no need. The fight will be over soon. They were just a few grass ninja. Hinata and the others could handle them without Ryujiro needing to intervene. Moreover, Kabuto and his team's true identities weren't Konoha ninja. There was no need to cooperate with them, and if these people acted foolishly, Ryujiro wouldn't show mercy. Kabuto and his team noticed Ryujiro and his group following them. Unaware of the situation, Yoroi revealed a sinister smile. Those Konoha brats behind us, let's kill them all. Kabuto's expression suddenly turned cold. Idiot, do you know who's leading them? After being in Konoha for so long, you still haven't gathered any intelligence. Kabuto. What do you mean by that? Yoroi's face also grew cold, staring at Kabuto with icy eyes. Heh, didn't Orochimaru-sama remind us of that boy before? Yoroi's expression suddenly froze. Is he the kid Orochimaru-sama mentioned? Before the operation began, Orochimaru reminded them that they could attack any team except for Ryujiro's. That was Orochimaru's order. Even though Yoroi was dissatisfied with Kabuto, what Kabuto said wasn't wrong, and he could only swallow his anger. Soon, figures darted past Yoroi's group. The grass ninja could only give up on the Heaven Scrolls in their hands and search for other targets. The chased grass ninja teams now had sweat dripping down their foreheads. Why were these Konoha ninjas so relentless in their pursuit? Could it be that those brats already knew they had the Heaven Scrolls? That was impossible. It's just a few brats. Compared to the 3 who chased us earlier, they seem much weaker. This exam allows killing. If we kill these Konoha ninjas, there's nothing wrong. But the grass country is still an ally of Konoha. Wouldn't it be inappropriate to kill them? One of the grass ninja laughed coldly. The world of ninjas is inherently filled with bloodshed and battle. If you have such concerns, you're not fit to be a ninja. As long as we get the Earth Scroll from them, we'll definitely be the first to pass this exam. Exactly. The ninja world didn't need so many concerns. Ninjas who had too many concerns would ultimately die by someone else's hand. Kill them. Several grass ninjas erupted with murderous intent. The next moment, a sword aura and a figure flashed past them, leaving the 3 grass ninjas' faces extremely stiff as they felt a sharp pain in their waists. Their sights gradually shifted downwards. One sword style. They didn't even know what happened, as they were cut in half by Ryujiro in an instant. Hinata, who had never seen this scene before, Tenten and others turned pale in an instant, and they leaned against the tree and kept vomiting. Only Niji reluctantly endured it, but his face also didn't look very good, but he didn't react as much as Hinata and others. Ryujiro, who had long been numb to these killings, didn't feel anything. Now they had successfully obtained the Heaven Scroll. Chapter 27, A Sudden Kick. You can use the Sharingan so proficiently at such a young age. Indeed, they must be from the Uchiha clan. To think that I have to use some of my abilities to deal with you. Orochimaru's gaze was chilling as he looked at Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura. Due to Ryujiro's influence, the current strength of Naruto and Sasuke had increased at least 2-fold compared to the original. Even Orochimaru had to use some of his true abilities. Raise Nan. Has Jiraiya already returned to Konoha? Orochimaru glanced at Naruto, who was now covered in wounds, murmuring to himself. Although I still wish to obtain Ryujiro, the Uchiha clan's power is not to be underestimated. Sasuke's expression suddenly darkened. His implication was that the Uchiha clan's Sharingan power was inferior to Ryujiro's. Damn it! Damn it! Sasuke felt a surge of anger. What he lacked now was strength. Wherever he went, he could hear people talking about Ryujiro's strength. Ryujiro. Ryujiro was just a common civilian. Why? Why did his power surpass that of a ninja with Uchiha blood like him? With just that level of power, how could he possibly defeat that man? The vengeance for his parents, when would he be able to seek it? When would he have the power to kill Itaki? Too weak. He was too weak. Suddenly, Orochimaru looked at Sasuke with interest, a twisted smile appearing on his face. Nice eyes. It seems you have potential worth developing. Perhaps you're suitable as a replacement for Ryujiro. Sasuke's young heart suffered another heavy blow. I'm not that guy's replacement. I'm a ninja of the Uchiha clan. Sasuke roared like a madman. Sasuke, let's defeat this guy together. Naruto's resilience once again compelled him to stand up. But Sasuke, driven by anger, had lost his mind. Naruto, shut up. You're just a weakling. Without Ryujiro, you're nothing. I can handle this guy on my own. Sasuke-kun. Sakura looked at the unfamiliar and indifferent Sasuke in disbelief. The Sasuke in front of her scared her. The Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails is quite troublesome. Orochimaru's figure disappeared suddenly, leaving behind an afterimage. In an instant, the cold Orochimaru appeared before Naruto and delivered a heavy punch to his stomach. Bah! Naruto, after spitting out a mouthful of water, directly fell unconscious. Sasuke broke out in a cold sweat. His Sharingan hadn't kept up with Orochimaru's movements. Just as Sasuke was about to throw a kunai, his body suddenly froze. The kunai fall onto a tree trunk. Paralysis jutsu. Sasuke's body was inexplicably restrained. No matter how he struggled, he couldn't break free. The power of the Uchiha clan. Although your attack is brother, your powers can't even compare to his. The gap between you and Itaki is like an abyss. Sasuke's heart felt like it was being scraped layer by layer with a knife. Who are you? Why do you know about Itaki? Have you seen him? Orochimaru smirked. Who knows? Suddenly, Orochimaru's neck stretched like rubber, and before Sasuke could understand what was happening, he was hit with a cursed seal. Sasuke-kun. Seeing this scene, Sakura's face turned even paler. Ah! Burning! Stinging! Sasuke hoarsely roared in agony. Sasuke, if you want power, come find me. Right now, you're too weak. Weak. Being called weak by someone and the intense pain made Sasuke tremble all over. After the paralysis jutsu was released, Sasuke collapsed weakly to the ground. Orochimaru, with a cold gaze, looked at Sasuke, who still had a cold smile on his face, gradually disappearing. However, in that instant, a reddish-black slash came rushing like a comet. Orochimaru's eyes shrank to pinpoints, and he had no choice but to temporarily flee. With a loud bang, the slash split a huge tree trunk instantly. Orochimaru looked coldly at Ryujiro. Ryujiro, I didn't expect us to meet so soon. Who's that person? Hinata and Niji felt the cold chakra emanating from Orochimaru, and their bodies trembled involuntarily. Very dangerous. That cold demeanor and chakra were like that of a venomous snake. Hinata, Niji, you guys go to the central tower first. I'll be there shortly. Ryujiro looked at Orochimaru indifferently. Ryujiro. Hinata approached with some worry. Ryujiro gently patted Hinata's head and said, Don't worry, I'll arrive safely. After hesitating for a moment, Hinata chose to trust Ryujiro. Ryujiro, please stay safe. Okay. Ryujiro looked at Orochimaru and glanced at the already unconscious Sasuke deliberately. It seems you've already placed the cursed seal of heaven on Sasuke. Orochimaru's expression changed drastically as he carefully assessed Ryujiro. To know even about the cursed seal was surprising. Ryujiro-kun, I'm afraid you don't understand that the more you know, the faster you will die. With that, Orochimaru's body erupted with fierce killing intent. At this moment, Sakura, not far away, was completely frightened by the killing intent emanating from Orochimaru. This was a battlefield. At this moment, Sakura was completely a burden. The gap between her and these two was too great. Ryujiro and Orochimaru stood on opposite sides, disdainfully smiling. So, are you trying to kill me? If possible, Orochimaru did want to kill Ryujiro. However, Orochimaru knew that Ryujiro's strength might be even more terrifying than he had imagined. Moreover, this was Konoha village. If too much commotion was caused, his actions would be discovered by the village's ninjas, and his subsequent plans would be difficult to carry out. Watching Ryujiro's calm demeanor in the face of such a terrifying figure, Sakura's heart was in turmoil. Facing such a terrifying person without any hint of emotion, it was no wonder he was hailed as the most genius student in the history of the Ninja Academy. Heh, Ryujiro, you're joking, right? With your current strength, I feel you might rival a cage. I don't want to get into trouble by getting stuck here with you. Ryujiro, let's meet again next time. Just as Orochimaru was preparing to use ninjutsu to leave, Ryujiro suddenly disappeared from his sight. With a rumble sound, tree trunks were pierced, creating large holes. Ryujiro directly kicked Orochimaru, catching him off guard. And that strength? It was undoubtedly Ryujiro's full strength, amplified by the sixth gate. Orochimaru hadn't even reacted yet. Chapter 28, Ryujiro vs. Orochimaru. A resounding crash echoed through the air, swirling up clouds of dust that erupted with tremendous force, forming a wave of wind. Cough, cough, cough. What's happening? This Chunin exam is a disaster. The three figures emerging from the dust were none other than Shikamaru, Koji, and Ino. They scrambled to their feet, brushing off the dust and gazing at the massive crater before them, as if a meteor had struck. Their minds went blank. Did a meteor just fall? Just as they pondered, another figure appeared before them. Is that Ryujiro? Ino exclaimed in astonishment. They used to be classmates with Ryujiro, but now he had become a well-known and acknowledged ninja in Konoha. As for their chances in this Chunin exam, they weren't too hopeful. Ryujiro cast a casual glance at the three of them. You'd better leave now. Otherwise, I can't guarantee your safety if you get involved later. What? Are they just burdens here? Suddenly, Shikamaru's expression changed drastically, his eyes filled with terror as he stared at the eerie figure emerging from the crater. He immediately grabbed Ino and Koji. Koji! Ino! Let's get out of here! Orochimaru's overwhelming killing intent finally burst forth. His eyes alone immobilized his targets. Such terrifying killing intent had likely claimed countless lives to amass such dread. Orochimaru, a former executioner in the Great Ninja War, had conducted numerous human experiments over the years, resulting in even more gruesome deaths. Shoo! Orochimaru's legs transformed into serpent-like tails, moving at several times their previous speed. Hidden shadow snake hands. Several venomous snakes shot out from Orochimaru's sleeves, like a tidal wave crashing toward Ryujiro. Not only that, but the mouths of these snakes also spewed out many sharp iron swords. Under this sharp onslaught, even corpses would struggle to remain intact. Such boring tricks! With a mere swing of his blade, Ryujiro unleashed a slash tens of meters high, cleaving through the snakes and leaving no trace of their bodies. An S-rank slash. Ryujiro, the secrets you possess are truly enviable. Orochimaru, deliberately concealing his presence, attempted to sneak attack Ryujiro from behind, aiming his sharp fangs at Ryujiro's neck. Once he implanted the curse mark on Ryujiro, even if Ryujiro were stronger, he wouldn't be able to resist him. In the instant Orochimaru bit down, a smirk appeared on Ryujiro's face. Haki coated Ryujiro's neck, causing Orochimaru to scream in pain instead. Even his teeth shattered upon impact, and Orochimaru's face twisted in agony as he clutched it. Orochimaru, did you think I couldn't see through your little plan? Since I understand you, I naturally know what you would do. Trying to place a curse mark on me. I simply left myself open on purpose to lure you in. Orochimaru glared at Ryujiro angrily, his heart aching as he looked at his shattered teeth on the ground. This brat! He looked harmless on the surface, but why was he so cunning? What was that black substance on his neck? It felt like biting into stone just now. Could it be some kind of special Kekkei Genkai? Could a civilian like Ryujiro really awaken a special Kekkei Genkai on his own? The ninja world harbored too many unknown secrets. Even Orochimaru couldn't guarantee he knew everything about it. A trickle of blood escaped Orochimaru's lips. Ryujiro, continuing this fight won't benefit either of us. Let's call it quits here. In the end, Orochimaru chose to withdraw. After all, his purpose in coming to Konoha wasn't to fight Ryujiro. Fine. Ryujiro agreed readily, sheathing his sword. Orochimaru was taken aback. He hadn't expected Ryujiro to agree so readily. What did Ryujiro mean by attacking him just now? Orochimaru, the reason I brought you here is because I have something to tell you. Within Ryujiro's observation Haki range, there were no other ninjas nearby. He whispered a few words into Orochimaru's ear. Orochimaru's eyes contracted violently, as if he had heard some earth-shattering secret. Is what you're saying true? Who knows? Ryujiro deliberately teased, wearing a mischievous smile. Orochimaru was about to say something, but Ryujiro had already disappeared from his field of vision. Those words just now were like thunder in his mind. As a mad scientist, he yearned for the secret of immortality and the Kekkei Genkais inherited by ninjas. The organs of Kekkei Genkai holders. Such a concept had never crossed Orochimaru's mind before. With the genes of a ninja's Kekkei Genkai, one could potentially unlock the secrets of their bloodline. Although chakra nature couldn't be manufactured, the mutation of organs for Kekkei Genkais might not be impossible to crack. Mass-producing mutated organs. And Orochimaru had only sought to obtain Sasuke as a vessel, never considering the secret of unraveling the Uchiha Kekkei Genkai. The words spoken by Ryujiro seemed to have opened a new door for him, revealing a secret he had never known before. The eyes of the six paths, said to control life and death, were the ultimate evolution of the Uchiha eyes. According to records, the ultimate evolution of the Uchiha clan's eyes should be the Mangekyo Sharingan. What Ryujiro said was true or false, Orochimaru dared not confirm. But judging from Ryujiro's current level of mystery, not only did he know about curse marks, but he also knew about the forbidden jutsu Orochimaru had developed. Faced with Ryujiro, Orochimaru felt like all his secrets were laid bare before him. What a terrifying kid! Konoha didn't produce a genius, but a monster that devours everything. A trace of fear crept into Orochimaru's eyes. Not long after Orochimaru left, Anko stared at the ravaged earth and shattered trees, feeling stunned. This chakra, it's Orochimaru's, no doubt. But what happened here? Orochimaru fought someone here, and the power was so terrifying. This Chunin exam is too strange. Anko's face grew grave. If it was related to Orochimaru, this exam was definitely not simple. Should she continue the pursuit? After scanning the destroyed surroundings, she made up her mind. She wouldn't pursue Orochimaru's trail any longer. She must report the situation here to the Hokage immediately. Chapter 29, Conclusion. Central Tower. Hinata and others were still on their way. In an instant, several shuriken flew towards Niji, who was holding the heaven scroll. Clang, clang, clang. Niji hid behind a tree trunk, and those who were attacked also took cover behind the trees. He. The ninjas from Konoha have quite sharp reflexes. 6 ninjas from the Takigaku emerged from the shadows, wearing sinister smiles on their faces as they mockingly looked at Niji and his companions hiding behind the trees. The strength of the Takigaku ninjas was actually not strong. When Niji and Hinata confirmed that these ninjas were not very powerful, they conveyed a message to Tenten and Lee. Dealing with the Takigaku ninjas was not difficult for Tenten and Lee with their strength. The Takigaku ninjas also underestimated the strength of the Konoha ninjas. They didn't even realize from the beginning that Niji and Hinata were from the prestigious Hyuga clan of Konoha. If they had recognized them early on, they might not have attacked Niji. Niji strolled out leisurely, playing with the heaven scroll in his hand. You want this? The leader of the Takigaku ninja sneered, since you know, just hand it over quickly. Perhaps we can consider letting you go since you're Konoha ninjas. Humph, just you guys. Tenten. Lee. Attack. Swish. The Takigaku ninjas didn't even realize that Tenten and Lee were no longer behind the trees. Their carelessness made them even more flustered when they saw Tenten and Lee in front of them. Leaf Hurricane. With a loud bang, the Takigaku ninjas were instantly sent flying and crashed heavily into the tree trunk, knocking them unconscious. Realizing that he had been fooled, the Takigaku ninja twisted his head furiously to look at Niji. But Niji had already disappeared. Gentle Fist, 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Niji's Byakugan was filled with indifference as he struck the Takigaku ninja repeatedly, the rapid successive attacks leaving the Takigaku ninja with no chance to escape. Even the armor on his body was torn open by Niji's high-speed attacks, revealing cracks spreading out. With a loud bang, the Takigaku ninja was sent flying, the immense impact leaving shallow marks even under Niji's feet. Bang! The tall tree shook violently for a moment, and the Takigaku ninja was completely embedded in the tree. As for whether he was alive or dead, Niji didn't care at all. When the Takigaku ninja attacked them just now, Niji understood. In the ninja world, it's either you die or I perish. Being kind to enemies is being cruel to oneself. The remaining Takigaku ninjas were all dealt with by Hinata. Hinata's strength was even greater than Niji's, so dealing with a few Takigaku ninjas was effortless for her. Soon, after Ryujiro arrived, they reunited with Hinata's team. With all 3 heaven scrolls gathered, Ryujiro's team became the first group to reach the central tower. After that, Gaara's team also arrived at the central tower. It's them. They're actually the first team to reach the central tower. Temari and Conqueror couldn't believe it as they watched Ryujiro's team. As for Gaara, his gaze had been fixed on Ryujiro the whole time, and his body was trembling because he was suppressing his murderous intent. During this period, Gaara hadn't been affected by Naruto's talk no jutsu, but he had become a genuine bloodthirsty monster who enjoyed killing. Gaara believed that only strong people were worthy of being hunted by him, and Ryujiro happened to be the prey he had been waiting for. He couldn't wait to start the next round of exams. Feeling Gaara's cold gaze, Ryujiro paid no attention to it at all. Although Gaara's strength at this stage was indeed formidable, he still had some shortcomings in front of Ryujiro. Of course, Ryujiro was also looking forward to a battle with Gaara. It would be interesting if it led to the emergence of Shikaku within Gaara. The Chunin exams were expected to end in a few days, and Ryujiro's team didn't plan to stay at the central tower all the time. After parting ways with Tenten and Lee, Ryujiro's team returned to the Hyuga house. Even though they had made it through the forest of death the fastest, they still felt uncomfortable in such an environment. Moreover, Ryujiro's body was still stained with blood. After Hinata and Ryujiro entered the bathroom, Niji couldn't help but mutter. Hinata-sama and Ryujiro relationship seems to be developing quite quickly. After about half an hour, Ryujiro and Hinata emerged from the bathroom together. Niji followed behind them. In the following days, Ryujiro didn't rush to practice. His progress was not something that could be easily improved now. Character Template, Dracula Mihawk. Character Unlock Progress, 86%. Compared to himself a year ago, Ryujiro's strength had improved significantly, and he had accumulated enough experience from battles in his spiritual space with Mihawk. At present, Ryujiro could already hold his own against Mihawk in the spiritual space, but in terms of flying slash, Mihawk's strikes were still much stronger than Ryujiro's. This was the only aspect Ryujiro was dissatisfied with. Ryujiro had been pondering the mysteries of the flying slash recently, but being impatient was useless. Sometimes, it was good to relax one's nerves for training. 3 days later, the second round of Chunin exams finally concluded. On the day the passing candidates were announced, almost all the examinees felt the cruelty of the Chunin exams. There were originally 26 groups with a total of 78 people. But only 21 passed. And the ninjas who died in the Forest of Death had already been cleared out. From the original Konoha 11 all passed the second exam, but Sasuke's changes were quite noticeable after encountering Orochimaru. Sasuke became even more aloof, and his cold demeanor would deter anyone who tried to approach him. The seed Orochimaru planted in Sasuke had gradually taken root and sprouted in his heart. The next exam was the preliminary round of the Chunin exams, which was the real deal for Ryujiro. 2 days later, all the candidates who passed the second exam gathered together. In the hall, just like Sasuke, Gaara's and others' gazes were all focused on Ryujiro. For them, they were only interested in Ryujiro. Feeling their gaze, Ryujiro paid no attention to it at all. Only Gaara could spark a bit of interest in him. As for Sasuke now, although his strength would increase to some extent under the enhancement of the curse mark, in terms of sheer power, he was still not as good as Gaara. The previously noisy environment quieted down instantly with the appearance of Hiruzen. After the hall became quiet, the subsequent examiner, Heiate Gecko, appeared. Chapter 30, A Battle Resolved in an Instant. This exam is the third round, the preliminary round of the Chunin exams, which is the elimination round. Those who are eliminated will exit this Chunin exam, only those who pass can participate in the final round. The words of Gecko made all the examinees present look serious, as this exam was incredibly important to them. Once they failed, they would miss the opportunity to advance to Chunin. Although there were 23 people who passed this exam, Kabuto worried that he wouldn't be able to control his own strength in the combat match and feared that revealing his identity would affect Orochimaru's plans. In the end, he found an excuse of feeling unwell and withdrew from this Chunin exam. So, there were only 22 examinees left. The 22 people were divided into 11 groups, and they determined their opponents by drawing lots. Some people prayed while drawing lots that they wouldn't draw too powerful opponents. Currently, the ones most examinees didn't want to encounter were Gaara and Sasuke. As for Ryujiro, although there were rumors of Ryujiro being a genius in other major villages, they all believed that a teenager with such formidable strength was intentionally spread by Konoha to confuse them. So, apart from ninjas from their own villages, no one paid too much attention to Ryujiro. The Konoha ninja who knew Ryujiro's strength didn't hope to draw Ryujiro as their opponent. Even if they had 1,000 ways to deal with it, the result they faced would inevitably be a miserable defeat. The only one who probably wanted to fight Ryujiro, knowing his strength, was likely Sasuke. The names on the screen of the arena quickly flickered and finally settled. The first match. Hinata vs Misumi. Misumi. Looking at the ninja wearing round glasses and covering his face with a long mask, Ryujiro couldn't help but frown. If he remembered correctly, this person's body had been modified. In fact, he didn't have any special abilities, but every part of his body could soften and stretch freely. As long as one knew this information, defeating Misumi would be a piece of cake. Ryujiro informed Hinata of this information, and Hinata nodded, indicating that she would be careful. With the entrance of the two, all examinees left the arena. Naruto, lying on the railing, looked at Hinata unexpectedly and said, "It's not Ryujiro who's the first one to go. But since it's Hinata, this battle should end quickly." Kakashi looked puzzled at Naruto. "Naruto, it seems you know Hinata's strength well." "Kakashi-sensei, I am friends with Ryujiro and Hinata, after all. Back in the Ninja Academy, I trained with them." Hinata defeated a Chunin in the early graduation exam. Defeated a Chunin? Kakashi became interested upon hearing this. According to Sakura, after Ryujiro arrived and directly kicked Orochimaru away, no one knew what happened next. But after visiting the Forest of Death, Kakashi understood that there must have been a fight between Ryujiro and Orochimaru. Otherwise, the trees in the forest wouldn't have been uprooted, and the shocking sword marks on the ground could only have been left by Ryujiro. Misumi's cold gaze locked onto Hinata. "Little girl, I won't show mercy just because you're a girl. You can still forfeit now." Although Misumi's surface identity was a genin of Konoha, his actual identity was a spy arranged by Orochimaru among the Sound Village ninjas in Konoha. So, he wouldn't show mercy to Konoha ninjas either. Naturally, Hinata wouldn't forfeit. Moreover, Ryujiro had already informed Hinata of Misumi's abilities. As long as she was careful, Misumi was not a formidable opponent at all. Then, let the match begin. Gekko announced. Misumi swooped down like a meteor, and as long as this girl fought him with taijutsu, the battle would be over in an instant. Hinata, who knew the information, naturally wouldn't engage in taijutsu with Misumi. She took a stance and gathered chakra in her hands. 8 trigrams, air palm. An invisible shockwave burst out, and everyone present didn't understand what had happened. They only saw Misumi flying backward rapidly and crashing heavily into the wall, causing a loud rumble. Gekko stepped forward to confirm that Misumi had fainted and announced, the winner. Hinata Hyuga. There was a buzz among the examinees, as the result was unexpected to them. Because in their eyes, Hinata seemed soft and weak, not like a strong opponent at all. But unexpectedly, she disintegrated the battle in an instant. They didn't understand what had happened. The gazes of the remaining examinees towards Hinata became more solemn. Regarding Hinata's clean ending of the match, Hayashi, who was watching the exam in secret, was also very satisfied. Ryujiro indeed entrusted Hinata to you. It was the best decision I've ever made. The upper ninjas of the Hyuga clan who knew about Hinata's usage of the 8 trigrams air palm naturally understood it. However, what surprised them was that Hinata, at such a young age, could already use the 8 trigrams air palm. There were some unexpected things. The unconscious Misumi was quickly taken away by the medical team. These people's lives or deaths were not important at all. In Orochimaru's eyes, these people were just pawns. In the next match, Sasuke fought against Yoroi Akid. Just like in the original, although Sasuke's current strength was much stronger than in the original, he still suffered because he didn't understand Yoroi's abilities. But in the end, Sasuke still won a hard-fought victory against Yoroi. Although he won, Sasuke didn't clench his fist. Instead, he felt even more that the gap between him and Ryujiro was too big. Against such trash, he almost lost this match. Power. He needed more power. He wanted to surpass everyone here. Because of the evil thoughts in Sasuke's heart, the cursed seal on his neck suddenly activated before he left the field. Sasuke's face twisted, and he suddenly collapsed to the ground, which puzzled all the examinees present. Kakashi quickly took Sasuke off the field. Orochimaru has also left. In Ryujiro's observation, Orochimaru had actually been in the arena all along, but with Sasuke's disappearance, Orochimaru's aura also disappeared. After several matches, Gekko announced again, next match, Ryujiro vs Tosu. Oh! Finally, Ryujiro is up. Naruto jumped up excitedly. The eyes of the ninjas on the field were all focused on Ryujiro. His appearance was like a dazzling star, attracting everyone's attention. That kid! The battle will end in an instant. Yes, after all, this Chunin exam is just child's play for him. Hearing the conversation of the upper ninjas, even Gaara couldn't help but reassess Ryujiro. To receive such evaluations from the upper ninjas, how far had his strength reached? That's good. If his strength was too weak, this Chunin exam would be too boring. Tosu looked solemnly at Ryujiro. The kid who was valued so highly by these ninjas must have something special. As long as he was careful and seized the opportunity, there might still be a chance to win. Let the match begin. Swish! As soon as the words fell, Ryujiro's figure disappeared from everyone's sight. When they looked again, Ryujiro was already behind Tosu. Ryujiro put away his blade, expressionless, and slowly left the field. Pfft! Blood gushed from Tosu's waist, making all the examinees' faces turn pale. Medical team! Medical team! Gekko hastily shouted. At the same time, his gaze turned to Ryujiro's back, full of shock. Such swordsmanship! That kid is even scarier than Sakumo-san. I announce, Ryujiro wins this match. From start to finish, not even 10 seconds had passed. Saying that the battle was resolved in an instant wouldn't be an exaggeration. Chapter 31, Gaara goes berserk. After Gekko announced Ryujiro's victory, the entire hall fell silent for several seconds. Everyone looked at Ryujiro walking up, their eyes filled with horror. Their throats were dry, unable to utter a sound. Another monster. Temari looked at Ryujiro unwillingly, fearfully saying, that annoying guy is actually so terrifying. That kind of swordsmanship is not something a genin possesses. Damn it, when did Konoha produce another genius in swordsmanship? Temari clenched her fists. When she drew the lots, she thought she could teach her opponent a lesson if it was Ryujiro. But now, witnessing Ryujiro's strength, Temari felt somewhat fortunate. If her opponent had truly been Ryujiro himself, could she really have dealt with that terrifying swordsmanship? Indeed, Konoha was truly the cradle of geniuses. The young girl by that man's side wasn't a simple character either. Tenten and Lee were already shocked beyond words. Ryujiro's strength was just too terrifying. No wonder Guy-sensei had just told them the battle would end in an instant. It was all true. Many elite jonins looked at Ryujiro, inevitably recalling the white fang of Konoha. Thinking back, the death of Sakumo Hatake still saddened many. Indeed, Ryujiro's strength is still as terrifying as ever. Naruto couldn't help but recall the devilish training sessions he had with Ryujiro. Remembering them now sent chills down his spine. And Naruto knew the best. This wasn't even all of Ryujiro's strength. Naruto had witnessed with his own eyes mountains being sliced apart by Ryujiro's blade. Once that terrifying slash was unleashed, the following exams would be impossible to continue. The next few matches went as Ryujiro predicted. By the time it was Rock Lee and Gaara's turn, Ryujiro's lazy demeanor finally became somewhat serious. This was considered one of the most classic battles in the early stages of the Chunin exams. While Lee couldn't be considered a genius himself, his effort and sweat outweighed others several times over, if not tens of times over. It was precisely because of this that Lee's strength in taijutsu was not inferior to that of a jonin. Of course, when Ryujiro referred to jonin, he meant the general jonin in the village. Lee still had a long way to go compared to elite jonin like Kakashi. Lee leaped down from the platform. Although Ryujiro warned me to be cautious of your bizarre abilities, since you're my opponent, I'll go all out. Lee always had his smile on his face, no matter when. TCH, that kid doesn't even know what kind of monster he's facing. Conqueror had a disdainful look. In his mind, even if it was Ryujiro, he might not necessarily be Gaara's match. However, unlike Conqueror, what Temari was more concerned about was what Ryujiro and Lee had said to each other before entering the arena. It's really worrying. That Konoha ninja seems to understand Gaara quite well. Maybe he's just bluffing. He is just a Konoha ninja. Even if he understands Gaara's power, does he understand Gaara's terror like I do? Conqueror didn't care much about what Ryujiro and Lee had said. In his opinion, the outcome was already decided. After hearing Conqueror's words, Temari thought it made sense, so she stopped thinking about it and focused on watching the match seriously. Hey. Is this for real? Conqueror's expression changed instantly. Gaara's sand defense is starting to fall behind. How could that kid have such strength? The examinees on the field were all shocked, watching the after images. Even their eyes couldn't keep up with Lee's speed. This kid's strength is unexpectedly formidable. What kind of monsters were coming out of this Chunin exams? So that's it. Even if Lee unties the restraints, it only makes Gaara feel slightly troubled. Ryujiro, you're right. That kid with the gourd is also a monster. A hint of seriousness flashed in Might Guy's eyes. He had underestimated Gaara's strength. But why did Ryujiro understand a ninja from Tsunagakuer so well? Did Ryujiro have some information about Tsunagakuer? It's intriguing. As a jonin in the village, Guy naturally had to consider many things. Ryujiro's eyes kept moving in various directions along with Lee's position. Indeed, very fast. If it weren't for observation Haki, the eyes wouldn't be able to keep up with the speed. Just trailing behind. Perhaps Lee had no talent in ninjutsu, but in taijutsu, Lee was undoubtedly a genius. With a loud bang, a huge roar attracted everyone's attention, and the arena suddenly sank with cracks spreading in all directions. Lee was indeed a genius, but compared to a monster like Gaara, the gap in levels was something that couldn't be bridged in an instant. Hey! Gaara seems to be losing control. Conqueror looked at Gaara's ferocious and bloodthirsty expression with fear, his forehead suddenly sweating. The sand armor has fallen off. How could that boy break through Gaara's sand armor? But Gaara. Temari bit her lip, her face unusually serious. Lee was now powerless, as he had used most of his stamina. But Gaara, who was unstable, didn't intend to let Lee off. The surging killing intent emanating from Gaara's body was already overwhelming. The 8 gates. Ryujiro had long known the outcome of this match. He would stop this match, but he didn't intend to stop Lee from opening the 8 gates. Lee had his own unique beliefs, and his belief was his own characteristic. The 8 inner gates, release formation. The 4th gate, open. In the instant Lee burst out with power, even the ground couldn't withstand the terrifying force. In an instant, the earth collapsed, and the tremendous wind pressure made many people scream. Gaara's sand defense speed couldn't keep up with Lee anymore. That kid has mastered such terrifying taijutsu. Konoha is truly formidable. Temari became increasingly wary of Konoha's depth. A sword genius, a taijutsu genius. Were all the geniuses in the entire ninja world from Konoha? So it ends like this. The 5th gate, open. With a loud bang, Gaara crashed into the ground like a comet, just when everyone thought Lee had won. When the dust settled, although Gaara looked somewhat disheveled, he hadn't suffered any substantial injuries. He's using the gourd made of sand as protection, Kakashi said with a serious expression. At this point, Lee had no more strength left. His muscles were torn, his legs broken. No one knew how much pain Lee was enduring at this moment. Kill that kid! Kill that kid! Another voice of Gaara echoed in Gaara's mind incessantly. Gaara's gaze grew colder, controlling the sand to continue persecuting Lee. And just as the situation was about to reach a critical point, a figure appeared in the arena, and Gaara's sand was instantly cut off by a sword aura. It's Ryujiro! Ino couldn't help but exclaim as she looked at the figure. Lee, it's over. You can't continue fighting anymore. If your injuries continue like this, if this battle continues, you might not even be able to continue living as a ninja. Lee didn't want to give up, but what Ryujiro said made sense. He was already exhausted. Lee, you have done well enough. This failure is only because your opponent is Gaara. Ryujiro came to Lee's side and comforted him. Ah! That annoying guy! I'm going to kill all of you. Because of Ryujiro's appearance, Gaara couldn't be suppressed anymore. The killing intent emanating from him made all the examinees present feel suffocated. Gaara! He has gone berserk. Chapter 32, Let them open their eyes. Extra chapter for reaching 500 power stones. Guy-sensei. Keep going. Ryujiro immediately threw Lee up. Lee fell into Guy's arms, still looking bewildered. Ryujiro, I'm injured. Hey! The match is already over. Not enough. Not enough. Not enough blood. Gaara's true face had completely shed its disguise. At this moment, his facial expression was fiercely savage, and his eyes, filled with hostility, were bloodshot. Kakashi looked horrified, sensing such immense killing intent. What has this child been through? How many people has he killed? The match for the genin of Tsunagakure village has ended. Gecko, using body flicker, suddenly appeared next to Gaara. But the next moment, his expression turned extremely horrified. Get out of the way! Sand shuriken! Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The sand around Gaara turned into shuriken and flew towards Gecko. Ding, ding, ding. Gecko waved his sword, dispersing the large area of sand shuriken. This child! Gecko's expression froze instantly. This is no joke. This level of killing intent, this kid really wants to kill everyone present. Kill him! Kill him! Kill him! Anyone who obstructs me must die. At this moment, Gaara was nearing madness. Sabakukyu! Yellow sand emerged from under Ryujiro and Gecko's feet, as if giant hands were trying to grasp their calves. Gecko, as a special jonin, instantly disappeared from his original position when he sensed something was wrong. As for Ryujiro, he had already known what Gaara intended to do with his observation haki and swiftly moved away from his original position. Tsunagakure Jonin, you better provide an explanation. Asuma frowned at Baki. The ominous chakra he emitted was definitely not something a child should possess. Baki's expression was also grim. Why did Gaara lose control at this time? The ninjas of Konoha didn't know that Gaara was a Jinchuriki. If Konoha found out that he, a Jinchuriki, participated in the Chunin exams while hiding his identity, Tsunagakure would not be able to bear the consequences. It might even lead to a war. It's not acceptable to lose control at this time, it will cause trouble. So, you better take a nap for a while. Armament haki. Black blade. Clang. Ryujiro deliberately switched to the back of his blade. If the Jinchuriki died here, it would cause big trouble. He wasn't foolish enough to let it happen. One sword style. Flash. Whoosh! The high-speed movement rubbed against the air, producing a sharp sound similar to breaking the sound barrier. Swish! The speed of this sword was so fast that even everyone couldn't understand what had happened. Accompanied by a huge impact on the ground, a straight outline appeared directly. The extreme sharpness of the sword made everyone feel like their exposed skin was being pricked by needles. A huge wave of air formed another wave, and the examinees who didn't understand what was happening screamed sharply again. When the dust settled, Ryujiro had already sheathed his sword, and at this moment, the sand armor of Gaara was shedding layer by layer from him. Gaara made a hoarse sound, his eyes trembling violently. Thud! In front of everyone's eyes, Gaara fell forward to the ground. Ryujiro looked at Gaara, his eyes flashing with a strange light. He had used armament Haki on his sword, due to which his sword sliced through Gaara's sand as if he was cutting a paper. This was also the reason why the sand armor fell off instantly. Sasuke looked at Ryujiro in horror. His fear of Ryujiro had risen to another level. Damn it! Why is the gap between him and me so huge? Even with the Sharingan, I can't keep up with his speed. Right now, I have no power to find Ataki and kill him. Sasuke was very angry, but felt helpless. At this point, Sasuke wasn't very powerful. Only in the later stage did Sasuke and Naruto open the road to their cheat mode. At this point, there was indeed a considerable gap between them and Ryujiro. Such swordsmanship! A hint of shock flashed in Gekko's eyes. He seemed to see his former leader, Sakumo Hatake, in Ryujiro. To possess such terrifying swordsmanship at such a young age. It's truly terrifying. Medical team! Medical team! Hurry up and come save him! Although Ryujiro used the back of his blade, due to the use of armament Haki, Gaara still suffered significant injuries. And the remaining matches couldn't continue for now. The arena had been destroyed and couldn't host normal matches anymore. However, Ryujiro felt that there was no need to continue this Chunin exam. Hokage-sama, if I were to demonstrate my full strength, can I be excused from continuing the Chunin exams? Even Hiruzen on the platform was stunned. What does Ryujiro want to do? He knew that this Chunin exam was just a joke for Ryujiro. With Ryujiro's strength, it wouldn't be too much to promote him to a Jonin. It seems that this child doesn't want to continue anymore. My consent alone is not enough. You have to make everyone present here recognize your strength. If the Jonin of Sunagakure village has no objections, then I also agree that you don't need to continue participating in this match. What does this mean? The ninjas of Sunagakure village and several Anbus understood what Ryujiro's words meant. Wasn't that just a display of his true strength? How was that possible? Let them acknowledge me. Ryujiro sneered, well, let them open their eyes. Chapter 33, Promotion to Special Jonin. Knowing Ryujiro's strength, Guy's expression suddenly changed. Ryujiro, are you serious? Kakashi, Kurane, Asuma, and other Jonin's faces turned incredibly solemn as they kept their distance from Ryujiro and their own students. Hey, Sand Ninja! If you don't want to be affected, you better come over quickly. Even now, Baki and the Sand Shinobi were still puzzled. What exactly were the Konoha Shinobi up to? Ryujiro let out a heavy sigh, a hint of pride flashing across his face. Better not go too overboard. 70% of his strength should be enough. Swoosh! With Ryujiro's indiscernible draw of his sword, a dazzling dark red light flashed. Boom! A flying slash dozens of meters high erupted from the ground, its rolling sound akin to thunderous rumbling. The dark red strike engulfed everything, like a terrifying tsunami swallowing all upon the sea. Feeling the suffocating pressure, Sasuke, Sakura, Shikamaru, and the other genin couldn't help but hold their breath, their faces filled with horror. The dreadful sword aura crushed everything invisible on the ground. At that moment, the entire arena shook as if it could collapse at any moment, the sword aura tearing the earth apart with its terrifying force. Boom! A loud explosion echoed throughout the arena, causing everyone to shiver in fear. Thick dust covered the entire arena, and in the moment of the smoke's dispersal, everyone was left bewildered. When the dust settled, both the Jonin and the examinees were stunned. In front of them, the smooth surface of the entire arena seemed as if it had been slashed open, revealing a huge gap. Most suffocatingly, the straight outline without end seemed to pierce into everyone's eyes like an abyss. At this moment, the entire venue fell silent. Even the air seemed to have solidified. Baki's expression was horrified to the extreme, almost losing control as he shouted, "Are you kidding me? Is that your Konoha village's genin?" Such power was definitely at the level of an S-rank ninjutsu, and there weren't many S-rank ninjutsu capable of such terrain influence. The only one capable of causing such an impact as demonstrated by Ryujiro was the cage. Konoha village. It was terrifying beyond belief. Even after the Uchiha massacre, there was still such a terrifying sword genius hidden. Could such a strike truly be accomplished with swordsmanship? Was that black substance from before some special Kekii Genkai? Why did the gods favor the Konoha village so much? Baki clenched his fists tightly, looking at Ryujiro with dread. Tenten and Lee mouths were so wide open that they could probably fit even an ostrich egg inside. Naruto and Hinata, who had seen Ryujiro cleave a mountain peak before, weren't too surprised. In fact, they had already prepared to face the storm earlier. Orochimaru, disguised as a jonin from the Sound Village, revealed an uncontrollable excitement in his dark serpent-like eyes. Orochimaru was like a child who had found a treasure trove, the fanaticism in his eyes could no longer be concealed. Ryujiro, this is your strength. In such a short time, you've actually grown to this extent. Indeed, you're special. It's a pity. If I had taken you away earlier, you would have been the best vessel. Orochimaru regretted a bit that he didn't capture Ryujiro when they first met. Now, the other had grown to this level, he was no longer someone he could easily deal with. Moreover, that terrifying strike. It seemed to require little effort to produce. Orochimaru couldn't help but suspect whether that strike was also a special Kekii Genkai. A person possessing two Kekii Genkai. This had never happened in the history of the ninja world. Is this his strength? Sasuke, with empty eyes, looked at the straight outline on the ground. At this moment, Sasuke felt as if there was no end in sight, as if he could never surpass Ryujiro in this lifetime. Even Hiruzen, holding his smoking pipe, was trembling. Although he already knew Ryujiro's strength, the impact of seeing it firsthand still stunned him. So, for this exam, the Jonin present. Do you think Ryujiro still needs to participate in the Chunin exam? Are you kidding me? With someone like him, the outcome of the Chunin exam was already obvious. Now, they didn't even have the courage to face Ryujiro directly. Baki remained silent for a long time. I have no objections. Me neither. Nor do we. Good. Seeing that the Jonin had no objections, Hiruzen smiled with relief. Then, in the name of the third Hokage, I officially declare you as a special Jonin of the village. What? Directly promoted to Jonin. All the examinees widened their eyes, their expressions incredulous. Directly promoting to Jonin, such a thing had never happened in the history of Konoha. But if Ryujiro's strength was announced as that of a Chunin, it indeed wouldn't match his actual ability. The people present were only slightly shocked, and they didn't have much objection to Ryujiro becoming a special Jonin. Special Jonin, hey! A cage-level ninja. All the Jonins knew that after today, Ryujiro's name would resonate throughout the entire ninja world, becoming an undeniable force to reckon with, for the major villages. Chapter 34, Final Exam. Jonin. Upon hearing those words, all the examinees shivered, but they were still worried about Ryujiro, who had already become a special Jonin. The gap between him and others was simply too vast. Looking at the crack that seemed like an abyss, countless people felt a chill. Among those present, perhaps no one was a match for Ryujiro. Even a Jonin might not be able to handle him. Participating in the Chunin exams with someone like him was simply despair. If Ryujiro was considered a genin, then the genin of Konoha were terrifying indeed. The Chunin exams couldn't proceed any further. The expressions of those students were filled with horror, and now, even the planning between Orochimaru and Kabuto had to be reconsidered overnight. But Orochimaru didn't believe that Ryujiro would affect his plans. He knew Ryujiro had no sense of belonging to Konoha. Ryujiro's thoughts were simple, he only wanted to protect the people he cared about. As for the lives of others, they were irrelevant to him. Moreover, Ryujiro felt it was time for Konoha's windmill to spin again. The third Hokage was already old, there needed to be a stronger person to stabilize Konoha's current state. A few days later, the news of Ryujiro being promoted to special Jonin spread throughout Konoha, and his name reached the ears of every house in Konoha. A powerful ninja had emerged in the village, ensuring better security for everyone. Only with a stronger village could they live safely in Konoha. Ryujiro, congratulations on becoming a Jonin. In a small restaurant in Konoha, Hinata, Tenten, Lee, Niji, Naruto, and others looked at the unique forehead protector on Ryujiro's head. Ah, Ryujiro is already a Jonin. I have to work hard too. At least I have to surpass that arrogant Sasuke. Naruto clenched his fist, a hint of determination flashing in his eyes. He now saw Sasuke as his rival. His strength was no less than that of a Chunin now, but his careless nature was his fatal flaw. A special Jonin. Ryujiro, thank you for saving me back then, Rock Lee said gratefully. Ryujiro smiled faintly. Since we are all students of Gai-sensei, I certainly won't ignore you. Besides, if your opponent wasn't Gaara, the fight might have ended quickly. Lee had surprised even Guy when he opened the fifth gate. In his eyes, Lee was a genius. Although he had no talent in ninjutsu, no one could surpass him in taijutsu. The 8 inner gates were considered forbidden jutsus because of their extremely demanding training conditions and the inevitable deadlock once opened, leading to a terrifying forbidden jutsu where both the user and the enemy met their demise. Jonin. Ryujiro touched his forehead protector. Perhaps he was appointed as a special Jonin because the village knew something. Hiruzen must have specially appointed him as a special Jonin for a reason. But in a few days, Konoha would face a small-scale war. During these past few days, some people in Konoha felt a sense of foreboding, as if there were dark clouds hanging over the village. It seemed there was a terrible conspiracy brewing in the darkness. 3 days later, the final rounds for the Chunin exams officially began. Although Ryujiro had become a special Jonin, he still arrived at the scene. The Chunin exams were not going to end so easily. He had to keep Hinata safe. When Gaara saw Ryujiro, his dormant second personality stirred again. Gaara leaned against the railing, his eyes full of hostility fixed on Ryujiro. Gaara! Temari cried out in fear. Baki's expression was also not very good. There was still some time before the plan began. If Gaara lost control at this moment, even he didn't know how the plan would change. That brat! A fierce killing intent flashed in Baki's eyes. Such a young cage-level ninja like him, if he's allowed to continue growing, he would be a nightmare for everyone. This time, he would destroy the cradle of this genius in Konoha. Sensing Baki's gaze, a faint smirk appeared on Ryujiro's lips. If you want to make a move against me, let's see if your sand village has the guts. Orochimaru. Has he disguised himself as the Kazekage? It seemed the plan was to proceed during the final exam, just like in the original story. The first match was Naruto Uzumaki vs. Niji Hyuga. Naruto, I won't hold back. Hehe, that's just perfect. As long as I defeat someone like you, the village would acknowledge me. Acknowledgement, hey. I want to gain Ryujiro's acknowledgement too. To protect Ryujiro and Lady Hinata, I must become stronger. Match. Start. Naruto crossed his hands into a cross. Multiple shadow clone jutsu. With a bang, dozens of clones appeared around Naruto, surrounding Niji. Shadow clones? Byakugan. Activate. Veins bulged on Niji's forehead as he activated his Byakugan, locking onto Naruto's real body instantly. Ha! Dozens of shadow clones charged toward Niji's position. Merely outnumbering wouldn't defeat Niji. Niji's chakra erupted instantly, followed by a rapid rotation like a top, turning his chakra into a barrier. All the charging shadow clones turned into smoke and disappeared. Not enough. After testing, Naruto finally got serious. Shadow Clone Jutsu. The clones circled around Niji, seemingly trying to confuse his vision. But Naruto didn't know that the Byakugan could see through his real body. Trying to confuse Niji was just Naruto's wishful thinking. Locking onto Naruto's real body, Niji assumed a gentle fist stance, and a 8 trigrams formation faintly appeared under his feet. The moment Naruto stepped into the formation. 8 trigrams. 32 palms. 2 palms. 4 palms. 8 palms. 32 palms. Bang bang bang. Faced with Niji's rain-like barrage of 32 palms, the shadow clones instantly exploded into smoke. Niji took a step forward, flying out like an arrow. 8 trigrams. 64 palms. Niji's strikes landed on the flowing chakra points of Naruto's body one after another. After a set of 64 palms, Naruto's face changed drastically. Chakra. Unable to use it anymore. It seems Naruto has lost, said Ryujiro indifferently from above. The reason why Naruto in the original story could still unleash some of the Nine Tails chakra was partly due to the stimulation from Neji. Without the Nine Tails chakra, the Naruto below was undoubtedly going to lose. Bang! A powerful palm struck Naruto's abdomen, sending him flying and tumbling on the ground. Thud thud thud! Neji didn't give Naruto any chance to catch his breath, swiftly running over. 8 trigrams air palm. Naruto, who hadn't yet gotten up, was sent flying again. After rolling several times, Naruto struggled to get up. But at this moment, Neji held a kunai over Naruto's head. Seeing this scene, Gekko announced, the winner of the first round is Neji Hyuga. The format of the final exam was different from before. It wasn't about winners passing the exam, it was about judging whether they could become Chunin based on their performance in battle. If this were on the battlefield, Naruto would undoubtedly die if Neji's kunai fell. Why is it like this? Naruto squatted down, holding his head and pulling his hair, seemingly unable to accept the result. Chapter 35, Konoha Crush. Hinata's next opponent was a character who never appeared in the original story. It seemed that someone from Kurene's team had replaced Hinata. In the next match, Kawa Hisako will face Hinata Hyuga. This battle came as a surprise to Ryujiro. This unfamiliar character, Kawa Hisako, turned out to be a ninja extremely skilled in genjutsu. Even Hinata struggled to win. Skilled in genjutsu. It seems Kurene has taught her own genjutsu to that girl, Ryujiro muttered quietly. The next match was between Conqueror and Aberame Shino, but Conqueror announced his forfeiture as soon as he stepped onto the stage. This elicited murmurs of disappointment from the audience, and even the villagers of Konoha watching were discussing among themselves about the sand ninjas. The hidden sand ninjas in the audience were trembling with rage. If not for the plan, they would have wanted to kill those few individuals. As soon as Sasuke and Gaara took the stage, the hidden sand ninjas in the crowd began to stir. It seemed that things were about to start, and several pairs of murderous eyes were fixed on Ryujiro. These sand ninjas were targeting me. Ryujiro didn't need to think to know that this was a plan Baki had devised against him. Orochimaru's target was only Sasuke. Although Orochimaru was interested in Ryujiro as a vessel, he wasn't foolish enough to that extent. Ryujiro's power was no longer something Orochimaru could control. Gaara enveloped himself in the sand armor. I will definitely kill that guy. Gaara's sand armor endured multiple attempts from Sasuke, whether it was with kunai or shuriken, without being breached. Not enough. Is this all you've got? Sasuke's inner rage roared madly as he recalled Ryujiro's slash that had become Sasuke's haunting nightmare. Since you're hiding in there, then try this. After forming seals, Sasuke's dazzling lightning burst forth like sparks, and the sharp cries of Chidori excited the audience. Isn't that Kakashi's move? Might Guy exclaimed in surprise as he looked at the Chidori on Sasuke's hand. Kakashi nodded. Incredible, that kid can actually use Chidori. Is that why you trained Sasuke? Kakashi. Sasuke charged fiercely, and with the cries of Chidori, Gaara's absolute defense was shattered by Sasuke's Chidori. With Gaara's scream, both Temari and Conqueror on the stage turned pale with horror. No way! Is Gaara going to lose control again? Something unknown, like a hand, emerged from Gaara's shell, and Sasuke leaped back in shock, staring at the thing before him like a hand, suddenly feeling a palpable sense of dread. What's happening? Blood. Why? Why is there blood on me? Damn it! Damn it! I'll kill you all! Gaara's voice inside the shell sounded almost insane, and the murderous intent erupting from him was chilling. And just then, white feathers began to fall from the sky like snow. The audience suddenly felt dizzy, and soon they fell into unconsciousness one by one. The plan orchestrated by Orochimaru, the Konoha Crush plan, officially began. These are Genjutsu. Neji, Hinata, and Ryujiro all dispelled the Genjutsu, while Gaara's extreme instability had already gone beyond the control of the original plot. Kakashi jumped from the stage to take Sasuke to a safe place. What's happening to Gaara? Sasuke looked at the changes happening to Gaara with a sense of unease. Kakashi's face showed an unprecedented solemn expression. That ominous chakra. If it's really a tailed beast, then it's trouble. Tailed beast. Sasuke heard this unfamiliar term for the first time. Tailed beasts are giant life forms created from immense chakra. Their power is like that of war machines, and even a cage has to be cautious when facing a tailed beast. Because the power of tailed beasts is too strong, they're sealed inside Jinchuriki, and individuals like that are called Jinchuriki. Listening to Kakashi's explanation, Sasuke was somewhat puzzled. Kakashi's face became extremely grim. His previous concerns had indeed come true. That's right. Hokage-sama. When Kakashi came to his senses, 4 of the Sound 4 had already activated the 4 Violet Flames formation. Damn it, are they faster than Anbu? If the Jinchuriki goes out of control, it would probably be as bad as the Nine Tails incident back then. The main problem now was the trouble with Gaara. Neither Hinata nor Niji understood what was happening. What's going on, Ryujiro? The Sound and Sand Village have initiated a plan against Konoha. What? The Sound and Sand Village are targeting Konoha? Hinata and Niji couldn't help but gasp in shock. Did the Sand Village want to start a war? It was only at this moment that Hinata and Niji realized that the Hokage had been taken away by Orochimaru disguised as the Kazekage. Niji, you protect Hinata and take her back to the Hyuga clan. Things are going to get very troublesome here. Understood, Ryujiro. Niji's expression also became solemn. Ryujiro-kun. Hinata couldn't help but look worriedly at Ryujiro. Ryujiro showed a reassuring smile. Don't worry, I'll come back safely. Hinata hesitated for a moment, then suddenly leaned forward and kissed Ryujiro on the cheek. Seeing this scene, Niji turned his head away, surprised. When did Lady Hinata become so bold? Blushing, Hinata lowered her head, unable to look at Ryujiro. Then, I'll wait for you to come back. Ryujiro was also stunned for a moment but quickly regained his composure and simply responded with an Hinata-sama, let's go. With Hinata in tow, Niji left the arena. Ryujiro couldn't help but touch the spot on his cheek where Hinata had kissed him. This feels pretty good. Chapter 36, Past Hokages. At this moment, just after Niji and his group left, 2 figures soared into the air. They were disguised as ordinary civilians but were actually Tsunagakuer ninjas. Their target was Ryujiro, and the Chunin wielding kunai rushed towards him. The pleasant atmosphere never lasts long. Tsunagakuer shinobi, you've picked the wrong opponent. Ryujiro's indifferent voice caused the Tsunagakuer ninja to stiffen, facing his plain and unadorned strikes. One by one, bloody heads rolled to the ground, filling the air with the scent of blood. In an instant, a torrential rain of blood poured down, and Ryujiro, tired of being stained with blood, immediately left his original position. The vivid red color splashed onto the audience seats, adding a vibrant hue. That kid is truly terrifying. Baki's wariness towards Ryujiro escalated once again upon seeing his emotionless gaze. Boom! Accompanied by a loud noise, Temari and Conqueror were swept away by Gaara, crashing into the rock wall. Embedded in the rock, Conqueror and Temari felt their internal organs shaking, blood gushing from their mouths. Both of them looked on with horror at Gaara's transformation into Shikaku's form. Shikaku's form referred to a significant change in the body while still maintaining a human form. Gaara in this state was extremely unstable. Enraged by the change in Gaara below, Hiruzen's eyes suddenly contracted. That's it. So, the ominous chakra came from a tailed beast. That kid is a Jinchuriki from Tsunagakuer. Hiruzen's expression turned grim. It was evident that the Sand Village, by concealing the presence of a Jinchuriki from the Konoha village, had been plotting with Orochimaru for a long time. Damn Tsunagakuer! Previously, the Konoha village had provided them with a large amount of funding and resources. And now, they turned their backs at such a crucial moment. Tsunagakuer is truly ungrateful. Hehe, it seems, Hiruzen-sensei, that the Jinchuriki seems quite unstable. If not stopped in time, there might be another disaster similar to the Nine Tails attack. Orochimaru sneered coldly. Hiruzen shuddered. Orochimaru, don't you have any feelings for the village? Feelings for the village? How could a wanted rogue ninja like me have feelings for the village? Hiruzen-sensei, it seems you're truly getting old. Even your mind is getting muddled. Dash. Conqueror. Temari. Damn it. They're injured so badly. It seems Gaara is out of control. In that case, let him wreak havoc. His target is that kid. If Gaara manages to kill him, it might hurt Konoha for a while. Baki's gaze darkened as he looked up at Ryujiro, who was smiling ambiguously. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. I'll kill him. Shoo. Gaara's figure suddenly disappeared, appearing in front of Ryujiro in an instant. His transformed right hand swept towards Ryujiro. Boom. A huge storm surged again, and the immense power seemed to destroy the audience stands above layer by layer. As the dust settled, Ryujiro wielded his sword to block Gaara's attack. Gaara became more excited, laughing maniacally. That's it. Only you are worthy of being my prey. Killing you will prove my strength. Ryujiro looked calmly at the ferocious Gaara. If you want to kill me, you'll have to prove you are worthy of doing so. But the force just now was indeed heavy. This is the power of a Jinchuriki. Both speed and strength have been raised several levels. Boom boom. The confrontation between the two sides destroyed the surrounding buildings, and countless debris fell from above, shaking the entire arena. In the distance, Temari and Conqueror looked on with a mixture of fear and dread. That guy can actually fight with the rampaging Gaara to this extent. What kind of monster is this Konoha ninja? Conqueror's face was full of horror. Initially, he had looked down on Ryujiro, thinking that Ryujiro was doomed to die once targeted by Gaara. But after witnessing Ryujiro's strike just now, Conqueror found his previous arrogance laughable. He didn't even have the power to mock Ryujiro's strength. The battle had now reached a fever pitch. Gaara relentlessly pursued Ryujiro, revealing a fierce grin. Is this all you can do? Your strength definitely doesn't end here. Are you looking down on me? I'll kill you. Killing someone stronger than me will make my value shine even more. Ryujiro used body flicker jutsu to escape. He couldn't help but think that Gaara was truly a madman. He did have the ability to kill Gaara instantly, but if he did so, other ninjas would definitely send reinforcements to support the third Hokage. In Ryujiro's mind, perhaps Hiruzen's death would be beneficial for Konoha's development. Kakashi, who was fighting with the Tsunagakure ninjas in the distance, glanced at the battle between Ryujiro and Gaara. As expected of a Jinchuriki, even Ryujiro seems to have some difficulty handling him. After all, that's the power of a tailed beast, which no longer belongs to the realm of humans. We must stop him quickly, or else the casualties in the village will increase. After kicking away a sound nin, Guy said solemnly. Yes, that three-headed snake monster and the one-tailed Jinchuriki were the most troublesome. Although the third Hokage was old, it wasn't easy for Orochimaru, a rogue ninja, to deal with him. Kakashi glanced at Hiruzen's position and suddenly his eyes contracted, revealing a shocked expression. Hey hey hey! Are you kidding me? Those two people, aren't they? The first Hokage and the second Hokage. Chapter 37, One-Tail Shikaku. The first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, was born during the Warring States period, and his formidable wood-style ninjutsu helped bring peace to those turbulent times. He was not only the first Hokage but also the founder of Konoha. His immense power earned him the title of the God of Shinobi. Thanks to Hashirama's presence, during his time, none of the other four great villages dared to even think about challenging Konoha. After Hashirama's passing, the other four great villages united to wage war against Konoha. However, despite their efforts, the war ended in Konoha's victory. But why would the two deceased Hokages appear now? Could it be? Kakashi suddenly remembered a forbidden jutsu developed by the second Hokage, a jutsu capable of summoning the dead back to the world of the living. The impure world reincarnation. A forbidden jutsu that brings the deceased back to life. If it's the first and second Hokage, then the third Hokage is in danger. The third Hokage, who was no longer in his prime, struggled even against Orochimaru alone. Orochimaru, how dare you toy with the dead? Playing with it will lead to dire consequences. Hiruzen's face turned pale with anger as he glared at Orochimaru. Orochimaru coldly smirked, Sensei, you should worry about yourself first. Dash. Sand bullet. Gaara waved his hand, and a barrage of sand bullets shot towards Ryujiro, dense enough to shred even rocks like sieves. Ding ding ding. Ryujiro remained unperturbed, effortlessly deflecting the sand bullets with his sword. The two former Hokages have been summoned. The third Hokage is in danger. Swish swish swish. The remaining sand ninja threw shurikens from different angles, sealing off Ryujiro's blind spots. A hint of impatience flashed across Ryujiro's face. A group of pests. Boom. A terrifying pressure erupted from Ryujiro's body, pressing down on the sand and sound ninja like a mountain. Even Gaara trembled under the influence of Conqueror's Haki, looking at Ryujiro with fear. The sand and sound ninja, overwhelmed by the Conqueror's Haki, fell unconscious. Some of Konoha's ninja also succumbed to the pressure and passed out. Ryujiro's mastery of Conqueror's Haki was not yet perfect. The Anbu members watched with horror as this scene unfolded. What was that aura just now? Ryujiro, a special Jonin, that aura emanated from him. The Anbu barely withstood the power of Conqueror's Haki, but they were still significantly affected. With such an aura, you truly are the best. That brat Sasuke can't compare to you, nor can the Uchiha clan of Konoha. At this moment, Sasuke had already been taken to another location by Kakashi. If he heard Gaara's words here, he would likely lose his composure and join the fight, which would be suicidal given his current strength. Ryujiro paid no attention to Gaara's words. Instead, he focused on the three-headed snake, which was still advancing. It's still not dealt with. Explosive tags had no effect on the three-headed snake. It was precisely because of this snake that Konoha's ninja appeared weak. Damn it, they're ignoring me. Half of Gaara's body had already transformed into a tailed beast. The instability of Shikaku's chakra indicated that Gaara would soon fully transform into a tailed beast. Ryujiro glanced at the struggling third Hokage. It's time. Clang. A completely different aura erupted from Ryujiro's body. The sharpness in his eyes alone immobilized his enemies. A piercing sword cry reverberated in everyone's ears, making them feel as if their eardrums would burst. Armament Haki. Black Blade. A dazzling reddish-black sword aura soared into the sky, devouring everything in its path like a tidal wave. That suffocating and desperate feeling enveloped even Gaara's heart with fear. How could something like this defeat me? Block it! Once again, Gaara was enveloped in his armor of sand, resembling a turtle retreating into its shell. The Sound and Sand Ninja, as well as Konoha's ninja, looked on with fear at the colossal sword aura, frozen stiff. It can't be. Such a sword aura, is it really created by swordsmanship? Even the former White Fang didn't possess such power. Ryujiro, he's truly terrifying. Yes, the ultimate victory in this invasion will belong to us, Konoha. Konoha's ninja were ignited with fighting spirit because of Ryujiro's sword aura. Those who had lost their morale regained their sharpness once again. Ah! A scream of despair sent chills down everyone's spines. Gaara, once proud and arrogant, had his sand armor split in half by Ryujiro's sword aura. Blood! So much blood! No no no! This can't be real! Damn it! Damn it! All of you! Come back to me! I don't want to be alone anymore! Gaara roared ferociously, his body covered in bumps. His body rapidly changed, emitting a terrifying chakra pressure that swept through the surroundings. With a loud bang, a huge cloud of smoke enveloped the sky above Konoha, and the appearance of a massive figure caused the entire village to shake, as if in an earthquake. The ninja entangled in the battle looked at the enormous monster before them, their faces filled with horror. Ha ha ha! Finally, I'm free! The gigantic creature, resembling a tanuki, let out a sharp laugh, its terrifying pressure suffocating. Ryujiro sighed heavily. Finally, you have come out. Shikaku. Chapter 38, Defeating Shikaku. Finally, I got my complete form. Temari, clutching the wound on her abdomen, looked in horror at the transformed complete form of Ichibai Shikaku. Hey, how did that thing end up here? This ominous chakra. It's one-tailed beast from Tsunagakuer. Those damn sand ninjas actually released a Jinchuriki into the village. Do they really want to start a war? The Konoha ninjas were both shocked and angry. Faced with such a colossal creature resembling a mountain, a hint of fear appeared on their faces. Of course, it wasn't just their situation that exceeded the expectations of the Sand and Sound shinobi. Has the Jinchuriki lost control? This is trouble. Beiki-sama, what should we do? Beiki looked solemnly at the colossal Shikaku not far away. Gaara's will had been completely taken over by Shikaku. To risk awakening Gaara under such circumstances, Beiki didn't want to take such a dangerous risk. Inform the Sand and Sound shinobi in the nearby area to evacuate the area of the tailed beast. Now is not the time to fool around. Once the tailed beast starts wreaking havoc in Konoha, even their Tsunagakuer wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Their initial goal was just to incapacitate Konoha for a while, to stifle the young talents of Konoha, but now things had escalated beyond control. The immense power of the tailed beasts could annihilate nations. He, Gaara's grudge is because of you. Since this kid let me out, I'll do him a favor and kill you. Shikaku looked down at Ryujiro, who seemed as small as an ant. If you want to kill me, then give it a try. Shikaku's enormous palm descended, like a small mountain falling from the sky, covering an area for miles around, casting a huge shadow over Ryujiro. Ryujiro, who had always been nonchalant, finally showed a hint of seriousness on his face. Swinging the sword in his hand, a spiral slash akin to a drill swept out. Bang! The sound of Shikaku's hand exploding filled the air with dust and debris, like a sandstorm sweeping through. Ryujiro leaped to a spot where he could avoid the dust, covering his nose and mouth with his sleeve. Cough cough cough. What's happening? The Konoha and Tsunagakure ninjas who were fighting in the distance kept coughing after inhaling the dust. The dust had obscured their vision, making it impossible to continue the fight. At this moment, a dark shadow swiftly moved towards Ryujiro's position. The sharp coldness emanating from it carried a fierce killing intent. Sharp kunao hovered in the air and landed heavily on Ryujiro's neck. Gotcha! Baki's face lit up with joy. Konoha's prodigy was about to die by my hand. Ding! The crisp sound of metal clashing made Baki's face turn pale. Kunao! It couldn't pierce through. He suddenly noticed that Ryujiro's neck was covered by some black substance, as hard as steel. Kekii Genkai. Baki croaked hoarsely, his face stiff as he spoke a few words. A blade of light covered his field of vision, and Baki's body fell from a height, staring at Ryujiro unwillingly. Feeling his life slipping away, Baki struggled desperately in mid-air, forming hand seals. Wind style, wind blade jutsu. A series of vacuum blades spewed out from Baki's mouth, but they didn't inflict any harm on Ryujiro. Useless. Baki, who was cut in half at the waist, fell to the ground. Blood dyed the hill red, and Baki's eyes lost their color. A jonin of Tsunagakure died at the hands of Ryujiro. When the dust settled, the Tsunagakure shinobi looked at Baki's bisected corpse, each showing an expression of immense fear. How could this happen? Baki-sama. This can't be true. Baki-sama actually died at the hands of a brat. Ah! Avenge Baki-sama. Wind style, wind blade jutsu. Wind style, vacuum bullets. A series of wind style ninjutsu came towards Ryujiro. Ryujiro stood there, unchanged, took a deep breath, and struck with a simple slash. Flying slash instantly devoured those Tsunagakure ninjas. Why bother coming here, just to die? Just as Ryujiro's words fell, he felt a sudden sense of danger. Shikaku, staring at Ryujiro, suddenly took a deep breath and fiercely slapped his own massive belly. Wind style. Vacuum blast. A large amount of chakra turned into a huge wind ball, spewing out from Shikaku's mouth. At the same time, the previously undispersed dust stirred up again. The terrifying hurricane covered the sky above Konoha with a thick layer of dust. The roaring gale mercilessly battered Konoha village. One building after another couldn't withstand this terrible disaster and collapsed. The terrifying wind pressure, like a mountain, pressed down on everyone. The ninjas of Konoha and Suna were blown away by this terrifying hurricane. The vacuum blast was imminent. Ryujiro grasped the sword in his hand, his eyes flashing with a sharp edge. He bent his legs, and the terrifying power erupted instantly. The stairs under his feet suddenly exploded, revealing a huge pit. Ryujiro flew towards Shikaku like a comet. One sword style. Dark slash. Clang. The sharp sound of the blade unsheathing seemed to echo throughout the entire ninja world at this moment. The vacuum blast instantly dissipated, and there was no terrifying slash flying out. But at this moment, the whole of Konoha was incredibly quiet, as if time had stopped at this moment. The gaze of everyone seemed to be marked with a terrifying sword scar, as if the world had been split in two. The colossal body of Shikaku, like a mountain, was instantly split in two, tilting to the right and slowly falling from the sky. Kid. What's your name? Shikaku's consciousness was gradually fading. Ryujiro. Just a simple name echoed in everyone's ears. A terrifying kid. Shikaku's last words came out involuntarily, and with a bang, he disappeared into a cloud of smoke. At the same time, a small figure appeared on the ground. Gaara had fallen into a deep coma. At this moment, the clouds floating above the sky also showed the image of being split in two by some kind of weapon. Has the sky been cut open? The tailed beast has been defeated. All the ninjas present stared blankly at the clouds that were split in two, and such a terrifying scene made their eyes bulge just by looking at it. The tailed beast. The tailed beast has been defeated. Konoha. We have another astonishing talent. Everyone, now is the time for us to strike back. Chapter 39, Reaping Benefits. Guy, that kid is truly astonishing. Yet, Ryujiro actually defeated a tailed beast. After today, Ryujiro's name will probably echo throughout the entire shinobi world. Kakashi and Might Guy both looked at the diminutive figure of Ryujiro in shock. A 14-year-old child possessing such terrifying power was simply surreal. And Might Guy knew very well that Ryujiro's strength now was even more terrifying than a few years ago. It's worth noting that Ryujiro had also learned the 8 gates. To think that he possessed the power to defeat a tailed beast even without using the 8 gates. Just how powerful had Ryujiro become? Has he surpassed the current 3rd Hokage? At this moment, Hiruzen and Orochimaru, who were battling within the 4 purple flames formation, also paused. Orochimaru's eyes revealed an uncontrollable excitement. Subarashi. What terrifying swordsmanship! Ryujiro, you're amazing. Ah, I really want to have you. Orochimaru's emotions had reached their peak. His gaze towards Ryujiro seemed as if he wanted to possess Ryujiro entirely. That child has truly grown to this extent. Hiruzen showed a relieved smile. But this smile didn't last long as he was punched away by Hashirama, the 1st Hokage. He struggled to get up. Hiruzen's physical strength was nearing its limit, and he was facing not only Hashirama but also Tobirama. Although these two were not at their peak strength, their combined efforts were enough to render Hiruzen unable to fight back. It seems I can only use that move. Sealing Jutsu Reaper Death Seal. A strange chakra emerged from behind Hiruzen, and a fierce spirit holding a rosary appeared behind him. What is this feeling? Orochimaru shuddered all over. At the moment when the spirit appeared, a chill and a sense of fear from the soul inexplicably surged on his spine. That seal. What exactly was it? The 3-headed snake continued to rampage through Konoha, destroying many buildings after crashing through the city walls. As a result, the battlefield was divided due to the immense body of the 3-headed snake. No matter what methods the Konoha ninjas used, they couldn't stop the advance of the 3-headed snake. Fire release, water release, shurikens, none of these methods could cause any harm to the 3-headed snake. Under Ryujiro's watchful eyes, one of the Konoha Chunin was forcibly swallowed by the 3-headed snake. This farce should come to an end completely. Ryujiro vanished from his original position using body flicker jutsu. Konoha's ninjas tried their best to stop the 3-headed snake's advance, but none of their methods were effective. During this time, they also had to guard against sneak attacks from the sand and sound ninja around them. Swish! Everyone felt something flying past them. A dazzling blade aura shot up, and Ryujiro, like a dazzling meteor, aimed directly at the 3 heads of the 3-headed snake. Boom! A rain of blood fell instantly. The 3 menacing heads of the 3-headed snake fell to the ground from a height, causing another wave of shock. Now the air was filled with the smell of blood. The Konoha Chunin who had been trying to stop the 3-headed snake's advance before didn't understand what had happened before they saw Ryujiro appearing beside them. Ryujiro looked at the stunned Chunin indifferently and said calmly, "The rest is up to you guys." It was time to enter the final battlefield. After saying that, Ryujiro's figure disappeared from the sight of the Konoha ninjas. When the Konoha ninjas came to their senses, they couldn't help but gulp down saliva and excitedly shout, "Ryujiro-sama! It's Ryujiro-sama! Everyone! Ryujiro-sama has killed that beast for us! It's time for us to counterattack!" There was no shortage of jonins among those who invaded Konoha this time. By now, Konoha was in ruins, with blood and corpses everywhere, and flames mercilessly devouring everything in the village. One chilling sword light after another fell mercilessly on the sand and sound ninja. Slash! That swift swordsmanship, the sound and sand ninja didn't even have time to react before being cut down. At this time, the Anbu ninja on the rooftops arrived at the scene, their eyes dilating with fear in their eyes. What happened here? The sand and sound ninja, how did they all die? They were killed by a single blow from a sharp weapon. Such terrifying swordsmanship, there's only one person in all of Konoha who can do this. The Anbu ninja also thought of a young face, but it still made them take a deep breath. In the not too distant distance, another round of wailing and screams came. After the Anbu arrived at the scene, they saw a figure covered in blood stains. His dark green eyes made even the Anbu freeze in place. They all felt like prey being hunted by a hunter. How terrifying this young man was! Fortunately, Ryujiro was their Konoha genius. If it were a genius from another village, such a terrifying individual would probably be a nightmare that Konoha couldn't get rid of. You've worked hard, Ryujiro. We'll take over from here. Anbu Ninja said. Understood. Ryujiro responded with a swish and disappeared from Anbu's sight. Seeing Ryujiro using the body flicker jutsu to leave, the Anbu Ninja confirmed that there was no one left alive and continued to move towards the other areas of Konoha invaded by the Sand Ninja. Before long, Ryujiro arrived at the entrance of the Hyuga clan compound. The reason Ryujiro left part of the battlefield was also because his progress could no longer continue. Character Template, Dracula Mihawk. Character Unlock Progress, 92%. After defeating the tailed beast, killing the three-headed snake, and numerous sand and sound ninja, his progress had reached 92%. However, no matter how many sand ninja he killed afterward, the progress bar did not change at all. Perhaps it was because the ninja who died at Ryujiro's hands were too weak to meet the conditions for increasing the progress. But as the progress increased, Ryujiro's understanding of swordsmanship once again improved. He left all matters of Konoha to the Anbu to handle. Chapter 40, The War Ends. Extra chapter for reaching 500 power stones. Ryujiro-kun, you're back. Hinata hurried over, her steps resembling those of a porcelain doll. At this stage, Hinata seemed like a doll, evoking an instinctive desire to protect. Ryujiro, at the age of 14, stood at a height of 1.8 meters, while Hinata, a year younger, was barely 1.6 meters tall. Yet, the height difference between them could still be considered adorable. Ryujiro. How's the situation outside? Niji asked hesitantly. From the rooftop of the Hyuga residence, Niji had a clear view of how Ryujiro defeated the three-headed serpent. That terrifying swordsmanship was the most frightening he had ever seen. The war should be ending soon. Without the Jinchuriki and their tailed beasts, the Sand Ninja will soon be defeated. The Anbu have already begun handling the aftermath. Ryujiro said calmly. His body was stained with crimson blood, making him appear as though he were a figure drenched in blood. What's more, there were remnants of organs scattered across him. The soft tissues, when touched, induced a particularly nauseating feeling. Upon hearing Ryujiro's words, Niji breathed a sigh of relief. As long as the village was safe. However, the audacity of the Sand and Sound village to unite and plan an attack on Konoha was astounding. With just the Sand and Sound villages, they wouldn't have had such confidence. There might be a mastermind behind this. Niji's deductions were not wrong. The Sound village had only gained some notoriety in recent years, being a relatively ordinary ninja village. Compared to the ninja villages of the five great nations, the Sound village seemed minuscule. Additionally, the Land of Wind, though part of the five great nations, had harsh environments and scarce resources. After the Third Great Ninja War, the Land of Wind had long been impoverished. Without sufficient confidence, the Land of Wind would never dare to wage war against Konoha. Currently, even as Ryujiro cleaned the filth from his body, his name had become an indelible nightmare for the Sand and Sound ninja. His terrifying strength, far beyond his age, and his devastating sword strikes comparable to S-rank ninjutsu were simply despair-inducing. Moreover, the one orchestrating everything for the Sand village, Baki, was dead. After Gaara transformed into a human, with the help of Shikaku's chakra, Conqueror, and Temari, along with Gaara, managed to escape Konoha. Of course, during this process, the Sand ninja escorting them also lost their lives. If the Jinchuriki of the Sand village were to fall into Konoha's hands, it would be an irreparable loss for the entire Sand village. As the war gradually came to a close, the outside clamor diminished significantly. Konoha appeared devastated, with collapsed buildings everywhere. The city walls had a massive hole from the three-headed serpent's attack. The once renowned village hidden in the leaves now seemed like a fading hero. Not long after the war, shocking news spread throughout Konoha that left everyone in disbelief. The third Hokage had fallen. And at that moment, Jiraiya, who had rushed back to the village, had an extremely dark face, his terrifying expression and eyes revealing incomparable rage. Anbu Ninja, stained with blood, suddenly appeared before Jiraiya, kneeling to report the latest casualties in Konoha. Upon hearing of the third Hokage's demise, Jiraiya staggered back, his mind reeling. This heartbreaking news was something Jiraiya couldn't fathom. The old man had died. Jiraiya clenched his fists, his nails digging into his flesh, yet he felt no pain. His agony now transcended physical sensation. Orochimaru! You bastard! You really killed Sensei. 3 days later, all ninjas attended the third Hokage's memorial service. The tragic news left everyone in disbelief. The third Hokage had always been portrayed as a kind old man, embracing all the ninja and villagers of Konoha. However, only Ryujiro knew that behind this facade of kindness, the third Hokage had done many unspeakable things, without which, the Uchiha clan might not have had the idea of a coup d'état. Konoha had always distrusted the Uchiha, yet the Uchiha still belonged to Konoha. But the higher UPS of Konoha feared the terrifying power hidden within the Uchiha clan. If Fugaku Uchiha had decided to launch a coup, he was fully capable of starting another Nine Tails incident. However, in the end, Fugaku chose another path, to die by the hand of his own son, Itachi Uchiha. Third Hokage. As Ryujiro looked at the third Hokage lying in the coffin, his eyes remained unaffected. He had the power to stop this tragedy entirely, but he chose not to. It was time for a more assertive leader to take the position of Hokage. Konoha, invaded, no longer bore its former prosperity. Many parts of Konoha needed reconstruction, and countless people had lost their husbands and children in this war. Many Konoha ninjas wished to avenge their loved ones with their own hands. But Konoha couldn't afford another upheaval. Though Konoha emerged victorious from this war, losing the third Hokage was an outcome no one could accept. After the memorial service, all the Jonin were summoned, including Ryujiro, who was recently appointed as a special Jonin. Only someone like Jiraiya, who had returned not long ago, could summon all the Jonin. Ryujiro looked with interest at the man before him, hailed as a hero. The legendary Chunin, Jiraiya, was also a character loved by many in the original Naruto series. Though Jiraiya was pervy, it was part of his nature. For so many years, Jiraiya only had Tsunade in his heart. He was a faithful man. You must be Ryujiro. Just as they described, your sharpness is apparent at first glance. Lord Jiraiya, you're too kind. I've just put in a little more effort than others, it's not as exaggerated as you say. Ryujiro said with a faint smile. Such modesty, coupled with extraordinary strength, was admirable. This kid resembles you, Sakumo-san. Jiraiya looked at Ryujiro with relief. He was extremely shocked when he learned that the Tsunagakuer Jinchuriki was defeated by a child. He thought that the news was so ridiculous, but when he saw the impact of Ryujiro's slash, Jiraiya was so shocked by the scene in front of him that he couldn't speak. The abyss-like crack seemed to have formed a cliff canyon with a single blow. The impact of this slash undoubtedly reached the power of S-level ninjutsu, not even more. Being able to defeat the One-Tails Jinchuriki, showed Ryujiro power. Such a person belonged to Konoha village. This was really fortunate according to him.
Thanks for listening.